Story 1. For the first 4 years of my marriage, my mother-in-law Brenda wasn't just family. She was one of my best friends. My husband Ryan loved that we were so close, but that perfect illusion shattered during a Christmas pub crawl when a drunken Brenda completely lost her mind. She falsely accused me of sleeping with her other son, physically attacked me, and then destroyed her. We went no contact for a year until she sent a groveling email claiming she had hit rock bottom and was in therapy. Like an idiot, I let her back in, setting myself up for an even more devastating betrayal. For the first 4 years, Brenda wasn't just my mother-in-law. She was one of my best friends. I know how that sounds like something out of a cheesy greeting card, but it was true. We'd grab lunch, go shopping, and talk on the phone for hours about everything and nothing. She was the cool mom. I never had the one who'd share a bottle of wine and tell me wild stories from her youth. My husband Ryan loved it. He'd watch us a big goofy smile on his face and say, "I'm the luckiest guy in the world." My two favorite women actually like each other. And I did. I really truly did. Which is what made the turn so goddamn brutal. The first crack in the foundation appeared during Christmas. It had become a tradition for the five of us, me, Ryan, his brother, Dan, Brenda, and her on-again, off-again boyfriend Rick, to go out for a festive night on the town. That year, we decided on a pub crawl through the city's historic district, all decked out in twinkling lights and fake snow. The night started perfectly. We were laughing, wearing stupid light-up reindeer antlers, and taking blurry selfies. Brenda was in top form charming the bartender and telling a story about the time she and her sister snuck into a Grateful Dead concert. She was magnetic when she was like that, the life of the party. Ryan and Dan were relaxed, enjoying seeing their mom so happy. The shift happened around the third bar. It was subtle at first. Her laughter got a little too loud, her movements a little too clumsy. She started talking over people, her eyes darting around the crowded room with a kind of predatory restlessness. Rick put his arm around her, trying to pull her close, and she violently shrugged him off. "Don't touch me," she slurred her voice, cutting through the festive music. Rick flinched. "Brenda, honey, what's wrong?" "What's wrong?" she shot back, her voice rising. "You've been staring at that waitress all night. That's what's wrong. You think I don't see you?" The waitress was a teenager with braces. Rick's face went pale. "I was ordering another round." "Jesus, Brenda, don't do this here." "Don't you Jesus Brenda me," she snarled. She jabbed a finger at his chest. "You're a pathetic old man and you're embarrassing me." The air around our table went frigid. Ryan jumped in, his voice low and pleading. "Mom, come on." He wasn't doing anything. "Let's just have a good time." "Oh, of course you take his side," she spat, rounding on her son. "You always take everyone's side but mine." Dan, who had been silent, just stared into his beer, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. This was a familiar dance for them, I realized. This was a script they knew by heart. I was the only one who had never seen this particular show before. I just sat there, my reindeer antlers suddenly feeling ridiculous, my stomach twisting into a knot. I tried to catch Ryan's eye to send a silent "let's go" message, but he was too focused on de-escalating the ticking time bomb that was his mother. The rest of the night was a masterclass in tension. Brenda alternated between seething silence and loud passive-aggressive digs at Rick. She'd accidentally knock his drink, then give a sickly sweet apology. She'd make comments just loud enough for us to hear. "Some men just can't keep it in their pants," she'd mutter to no one in particular. We all just tried to survive it. Dan disappeared into his phone. Ryan kept trying to change the subject with forced cheerfulness. "Hey, who wants another round of peppermint shots? I just wanted to crawl out of my own skin." The vibrant, funny woman I'd come to love had been replaced by this snarling, paranoid stranger. I watched her, my heart pounding, and a cold thought crept into my mind. I don't know this person at all. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Dan stood up. "I'm calling an Uber." "We're done." Brenda shot him a look of pure venom, but didn't argue. The fight had drained out of her, replaced by a sullen, simmering rage. The ride home was a new kind of hell. The five of us were crammed into the back of a minivan. The air thick with alcohol and unspoken anger. No one said a word. The only sound was the Christmas music playing softly from the driver's radio and the sound of Brenda's ragged breathing. I sat crushed between Ryan and the car door, trying to make myself as small as possible. I could feel the heat rolling off of her from across the seat. She was a furnace of fury, and I was terrified of what would happen when the door opened, and all that pressure was released. We pulled into the driveway of the home she shared with Rick, the house where Ryan and I were staying for the holiday weekend. The engine cut out, plunging us into an almost suffocating silence. For a moment, nobody moved. I remember thinking, okay, we made it. She'll go inside, pass out, and in the morning she'll pretend none of this ever happened. Rick was the first to break the stillness. He opened his door and got out, not even looking back at her. "I'm sleeping on the couch," he mumbled, and trudged toward the front door. Brenda watched him go, her expression unreadable in the dim light. Then, slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes glassy and cold, scanned past Ryan, past Dan, and landed directly on me. A strange, twisted smile spread across her lips. "Well, well, well," she whispered, her voice a low, dangerous growl. "Look what we have here." My blood ran cold. Ryan shifted beside me, sensing the change in the air. "Mom, what are you talking about? Let's just go inside." Brenda ignored him. Her focus was entirely on me. "I see how you look at him," she hissed, her voice thick with venom. "All night. Batting your little eyelashes at my other son. You think I'm stupid." I stared at her, completely bewildered. "What? Brenda, you're drunk? You're not making any sense." I glanced at Dan, who was frozen by the open car door, his face a mask of horror. "Oh, I'm making perfect sense," she sneered, climbing out of the car and stalking around to my side. "You're fucking my husband's brother, aren't you, in my house?" The accusation was so insane, so utterly detached from reality, that I couldn't help it. I laughed. It was a short, sharp, incredulous bark of a laugh. That was my mistake. Her face contorted into a mask of pure rage. She lunged her hand, flying at my face. It was a clumsy, drunken swing, but her nails raked across my cheek before I could even flinch. I scrambled backward into the car seat as she drew her fist back to punch me. "Mom," Ryan yelled, grabbing for her arm. But Dan was faster. He moved between us in a flash, shoving his mother back. "Get away from her! What the hell's wrong with you?" That's when Rick reappeared, drawn by the shouting. He saw Dan push Brenda and lost his mind. "You don't put your hands on her!" he roared, tackling Dan from the side. They both crashed into the gravel driveway. It was chaos. A nightmare of flailing limbs and guttural screams under the cold glare of the porch light. Ryan was trying to pull Rick off his brother, while Brenda clawed at Ryan's back, screaming obscenities. Rick had Dan pinned his hands around Dan's throat. I saw Dan's face turning purple, his eyes wide with panic. In a desperate move, Dan managed to flip them, getting on top and wrapping his arm around Rick's neck in a chokehold. "Stop fighting," Dan gasped. His voice strained. "Just stop." Rick thrashed for a few seconds and then went limp. Dan held him for a moment longer before letting go, scrambling to his feet, chest heaving. Brenda let out a sound like a wounded animal and ran to Rick's side. He was conscious, just gasping for air. She looked up from him, her eyes locking first on Dan, then on me. The hatred in them was biblical. "Get out," she whispered. "Get your shit and get out of my house. Now." We stumbled inside to grab our things. She followed us a destructive hurricane. She ripped our suitcase from my hands, unzipped it, and just started throwing our clothes out the front door and onto the lawn. Then she went for the truly precious things. She grabbed a framed photo of Ryan and me from our wedding day and smashed it over her knee. She saw my laptop on the desk, picked it up, and hurled it onto the tile floor where it shattered. Ryan was just yelling, "Mom, stop, please stop." But she was beyond reason. The last thing I saw before Dan pulled us out the door was her grabbing a shoebox of Ryan's childhood photos. pictures of him as a baby his first day of school and tearing them to shreds one by one. She never apologized. Not once. She told everyone we had attacked her and Rick for no reason. We didn't speak for a year. A solid, silent, miserable year. Then an email arrived. It was long and articulate, full of words like remorse and rock bottom. She claimed she was sober, that she was in therapy, and that the guilt of what she'd done was eating her alive. She begged for another chance. Ryan wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe her. So cautiously, I let her back in. And for a while, it was better than before. We spent the next 3 years rebuilding. We were careful at first, but slowly the old friendship returned. We went to movies, we had long lunches, we confided in each other. She was the Brenda I'd first met, funny, warm, and supportive. I told myself that night was a one-time psychotic break, a perfect storm of alcohol and jealousy that would never happen again. I let myself trust her completely. The second time it started the same way. A fun night, lots of drinks, lots of laughs. We were at a concert with one of her friends, a woman who, after a few cocktails, started making casually racist comments about the opening act. I said something mild like, "Hey, that's not cool." Brenda turned on me instantly. "Oh, calm down, Leah. It was a joke. You're so sensitive." The night soured from there. On the ride home, she started in on me. "You think you're so much better than us with your perfect little family," she slurred. "Brenda, my parents have nothing to do with this," I said, my stomach twisting into that old familiar knot. "Oh, please, your mother is a stuck-up bitch and your father is a spineless bore." They looked down on me. I see it. She was so vicious, so cruel that Ryan finally told the Uber driver to pull over. "Mom, get out. You can find your own way home." She did. She stumbled out of the car, slammed the door, and left us stranded downtown at 2 a.m. When we finally got back to her house to get our car, she was waiting. The moment I walked through the door, she was in my face. She grabbed my jaw, her fingers digging into my cheeks, forcing me to look at her. Her breath was hot and sour with whiskey. "You listen to me," she seethed, her eyes wild. "You don't ever disrespect me or my friends. You have no right." I pulled away, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked at this woman, this monster who wore my friend's face, and all the love I had for her curdled into ash. "I am done, Brenda. I'm done with this." She laughed, a cold, empty sound. "Done? You can't be done." She gestured toward a terrified Ryan who was standing frozen in the doorway. "You're just my son's wife. That's all you'll ever be." That was it. That was the line that severed everything for good. Now, a week later, I am firmly no contact. I will not be betrayed a third time. I won't give her the chance. I found a small baggie in her desk drawer while packing our last few things. A crystalline substance that looked chillingly like meth. It suddenly made the Jekyll and Hyde transformations, the paranoia, the rages make a terrifying kind of sense. She isn't just an alcoholic. She's a narcissist with a drug problem, and I'm a threat to her supply or her ego or whatever twisted reality she lives in. The real problem isn't Brenda anymore. It's Ryan. Last night, while I was sitting on our couch, numb with shock and trying to process the fact that the woman I loved like a mother had put her hands on me again, Ryan packed an overnight bag. "Where are you going?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. I'm going to go stay with my mom." "Make sure she's okay," he said, not meeting my eyes. "She's all alone." He left. He left me, his wife, the person his mother had just assaulted, to go comfort his abuser. He's been texting me saying he's just trying to keep the peace, that she's fragile right now. I haven't responded. I'm sitting in our quiet house staring at the wall, and I have never felt so alone in my entire life. I've built my life around this man, and in the defining moment when I needed him to stand with me to protect me from his own family, he walked out the door and went right back to her. I'm free of Brenda. I know that. With a certainty that chills me to the bone. But now I have to face a much more terrifying question. Am I about to lose my husband too? And what kind of life could we possibly build? What kind of children could we possibly raise in the shadow of a woman he will always choose over us? Story 2. The first 48 hours with our newborn son were a beautiful sleep-deprived blur. We decided to name him Alec, just Alec, clean and simple. But when my sister Chloe came to visit, she immediately scrunched up her face, declared it sounded like an incomplete mistake, and insisted everyone would just call him Alex anyway. My wife Sarah was already battling severe postpartum anxiety, second-guessing every maternal instinct she had, and Chloe's relentless judgment was crushing her fragile confidence. After a week of giving us the cold shoulder, Chloe texted me an ultimatum. She demanded that we legally change his birth certificate to fix our mistake, claiming the whole family agreed with her. The first 48 hours with our son were a beautiful, terrifying, sleep-deprived blur. My wife Sarah was a warrior. I was just the guy running on coffee and adrenaline, trying to remember how to swaddle and not screw anything up. We brought him home, this tiny 7-pound miracle, and for one perfect evening it was just the three of us, our little family. We named him Alec. Not Alexander, just Alec. It felt strong, clean, and simple. It felt like him. The next day the family pilgrimage began. My parents cried, Sarah's parents cried, everyone cooed over Alec, calling his name perfect. Then my sister Chloe arrived. She breezed in, dropped a gift bag on the counter, and peered into the bassinet. "Oh, he's so tiny," she said before looking up at me. "So, Alec. You mean Alex, right?" I smiled, still running on the high of being a new dad. "No, Alec. A-L-E-C. Chloe's face pinched just for a second. It was a look I knew well, the one she got right before offering an opinion nobody asked for. "Oh," she said, the single syllable loaded with judgment. "Okay. Well, everyone is just going to call him Alex anyway. You probably should have just gone with that." Sarah, who was sitting on the couch nursing a cup of tea, shifted uncomfortably. "We liked Alex," she said, her voice quiet. "It's the name we chose, Chloe," I added, trying to sound breezy and final. Chloe just shrugged and changed the subject to the hideous diaper bag she'd bought us. But the damage was done. A tiny crack had appeared in our perfect little bubble. For the next few days, Chloe was cold. Her texts were one-word answers. She ignored a picture I sent of Alec in his first bath. It was classic Chloe sulking. I'd seen it a million times ever since we were kids, and I got the video game console she wanted for Christmas. I figured she'd get over it. It was a stupid thing to be weird about. I was wrong. A week after Alec was born, she called me while I was rocking him to sleep. Sarah was in the shower, her first real break of the day. "Hey, what's up?" I whispered, pacing the nursery. "I need to talk to you about the baby's name," she said, no preamble. My spine stiffened. "Chloe, we're not having this conversation again." "No, you need to listen," she insisted, her voice gaining an urgent, almost frantic edge. "I've been thinking about it nonstop. It's just a dumb name, Connor. I'm sorry, but it is. It sounds incomplete, like you got halfway through Alex and gave up. He's going to have to correct people his entire life." I stopped pacing. Alex stirred in my arms, and I started rocking again, my movements jerky with anger. "It's our son. We chose it. It's done." "But it's not," she said, her voice rising. "It's a mistake. A stupid, trendy mistake, and you shouldn't have chosen it. I'm just trying to save you from future embarrassment." I heard the bathroom door creak open down the hall. "Sarah?" "Chloe, I'm hanging up now," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm just saying what everyone else is too polite to say." I ended the call and shoved my phone in my pocket, my hand trembling. I walked out of the nursery to see Sarah standing in the hallway wrapped in a towel, her face pale. She'd heard. I saw it in her eyes, that flicker of doubt, that fresh wave of anxiety that was already consuming her. The postpartum anxiety had hit Sarah like a truck. She was barely sleeping, even when Alec was. She worried about everything: if he was warm enough, if he was eating enough, if she was holding him right. She was fragile, second-guessing every single instinct. And now my sister had just lobbed a grenade into her fragile confidence, basically telling her she'd failed at the very first task of motherhood, naming her child. "Don't listen to her," I said, my voice softer than I felt. "She's being ridiculous." Sarah just nodded, not meeting my eyes, and disappeared into our bedroom. I knew she wouldn't just brush it off. It would sit there and fester, another thing for her anxious mind to latch onto. For 2 days, there was silence. I didn't reach out to Chloe, and she didn't reach out to me. I was hoping, praying she'd finally dropped it. I focused on Sarah, trying to rebuild the confidence Chloe had shattered. I kept telling her how much I loved the name Alec, how perfect it was, how perfect times he times was. She would smile, but it never quite reached her eyes. Then this afternoon, my phone buzzed. I was sitting on the floor trying to assemble a baby swing that looked like it required an engineering degree. Sarah was on the couch with Alec sleeping on her chest, a rare moment of peace. I glanced at the screen. It was a text from Chloe. My stomach dropped. My hands were shaking as I opened it. It wasn't an apology. It was an ultimatum. Asterisk, asterisk, I've spoken to Mom and Dad, and they agree with me. This isn't just my opinion anymore, it's a family opinion. You need to take it on board and change the name. If you won't do that, you at least need to go correct the spelling on the birth certificate to Alex. It's not too late to fix this. Asterisk, asterisk. I stared at the glowing screen, the words burning into my retinas. Asterisk, correct the spelling. Fix this. Asterisk. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, shaking with a rage so pure and cold it felt like ice water flooding my chest. Beside me, Sarah stirred. Alec was still asleep on her, his tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythm of perfect peace. A peace my sister seemed hell-bent on destroying. "What is it?" Sarah whispered, her eyes tracking the rigid line of my jaw. I didn't say a word. I just turned the phone and let her read it. I watched her face crumble. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a quiet, devastating collapse. The light in her eyes just went out. Her shoulders slumped, and she pulled Alec a little closer, as if to shield him from the words on the screen. That was it. That was the last straw. I stood up carefully, placing the half-assembled baby swing parts on the floor, and walked into the kitchen. I hit Chloe's contact and put the phone to my ear. She answered on the second ring, her voice smug. "Did you get my text? I think it's for the bee." "Listen to me very carefully," I cut her off, my voice dangerously low. "You will not contact me or Sarah about this again. Not by text, not by phone, not by carrier pigeon. Do you understand?" There was a stunned silence. "Excuse me, I was just..." "No," I snapped the word like a gunshot in the quiet house. "You don't get to just anything. Your opinion on my son's name is useless. It is worthless. It means absolutely nothing to me, and even less to Sarah. The only thing it's doing is causing pain to a new mother who is already going through hell, and I will not allow it." "How dare you?" she shrieked, her voice cracking with indignation. "I'm just sharing a family opinion. Mom and Dad agree with me." "I don't care if the Pope himself agrees with you," I retorted, my voice rising. "This is not a family opinion situation. This is my son, my wife, my family. There are some topics that are completely off limits. And this is the biggest one. You have crossed a line you can't even see anymore, Chloe. You're being a bully, Connor. I'm your sister." "Then act like it," I was yelling, now pacing the kitchen tiles like a caged animal. A sister would have brought a casserole and told my wife she was doing a great job. A sister would have held her nephew and said his name was perfect because times he times is perfect. You have done nothing but try to tear down the first real decision we've made as parents. So we're done. This conversation is over permanently. I hung up before she could say another word. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I leaned against the counter, breathing heavily, the silence of the house pressing in on me. When I walked back into the living room, Sarah was looking at me, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered, her voice thick. "Yes," I said, my own voice shaking. "I really did." The fallout was faster and more brutal than I could have imagined. 2 hours later, while I was finally wrestling the last screw into the baby swing, my mom called. "Connor, what on earth did you say to your sister? She is absolutely beside herself." I didn't even try to soften it. I told her to leave us alone. She said you called her opinion useless and screamed at her. My dad's voice chimed in from a speakerphone. "She was just trying to help, son. We all think Alec is a bit unconventional. Alex is just a stronger name." I felt a fresh wave of fury so potent it made me dizzy. Unconventional. It's a name. It's not like we named him Xylophone. And she wasn't helping. She was demanding. She sent Sarah a text telling us to go change the birth certificate. After I already told her to stop. Well, her delivery might have been a bit off, my mother conceded, but her heart was in the right place. "You were far too harsh, Connor. She's your family. You owe her an apology." I laughed. It was a hollow, ugly sound. "An apology? Are you kidding me? You want me to apologize for defending my wife and my son?" "You need to learn that not everything is a personal attack," my dad said, his tone dripping with paternal disappointment. "You've completely overreacted and hurt your sister's feelings. Frankly, we're very disappointed in you." Disappointed. The word hit me like a physical blow. They weren't disappointed in Chloe for her cruelty, for her relentless harassment of a woman struggling with postpartum anxiety. They were disappointed in me for standing up to it. "Okay," I said, my voice flat and dead. "I see how it is. I have to go. Alec needs a diaper change." I hung up on them too. I didn't have the energy for another fight. I stood there in the living room, the garish, colorful baby swing finally assembled a monument to a life that was supposed to be joyful, but now felt like a battlefield. My own parents. They had sided with her. I was completely on my own. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the soft breathing of my wife and son. Sarah had finally fallen into a deep, exhausted sleep. I watched them for a long time, this perfect little unit I had fought for, and a corrosive doubt began to creep in. Was I too harsh? Did I overreact? The words my dad said echoed in my head. Asterisk, you've hurt your sister's feelings. Asterisk, in their eyes, I was the villain. I was the one who broke the peace, not Chloe. They had me questioning my own reality, my own justifiable anger. I slipped out of bed and went to the living room, the glow of my laptop screen cutting through the darkness. I felt isolated, cornered, and furious. I needed an outside perspective. I needed to know if I was crazy. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing out the whole miserable story. The first visit, the phone call, the ultimatum, the showdown. I described Sarah's anxiety, my parents' betrayal, and the soul-crushing feeling of being ganged up on by the people who were supposed to be my biggest support. I typed until my fingers ached and my eyes burned. When I was done, I stared at the blinking cursor at the end of the post. I gave it a title, a simple, desperate question for a jury of anonymous strangers. Am I the bad guy for telling my sister her opinion on my son's name is useless and worthless? I took a deep breath. And I clicked post. Story 3. Having my 20-year-old daughter Madison move back home with her newborn baby Lily felt like the natural order of things. But our house had forgotten the language of newborns. It only spoke the language of my 1-year-old son Ryan, who has profound ADHD and operates at 2 speeds, asleep and tornado. For weeks, Madison was drowning in sleep deprivation as Ryan constantly, though unintentionally, woke the baby with his explosive, uncontrollable energy. Instead of throwing my exhausted daughter a life raft, I constantly defended Ryan, insisting she needed to cut him some slack because his brain was just wired differently. The absolute breaking point came after a brutal 3-hour crying fit from the baby when Ryan kicked Madison's door open and screamed at the top of his lungs about a video game waking the baby yet again and causing my sleep-deprived daughter to completely snap. The first week was fine. Sort of. Having my daughter Madison back home felt right. She's only 20 and holding her baby girl, my granddaughter Lily, just felt like the proper order of things. A house is supposed to have a baby in it sometimes. But our house had forgotten the language of newborns. It only spoke Ryan. Ryan is 11. He operates at 2 speeds, asleep and tornado. He's got ADHD that his doctor calls profound. I just call it Ryan. It's the way his brain is wired. He's not a bad kid. He's a good kid in a body that won't stop moving, with a mouth that won't stop talking, and a mind that ricochets from one thought to the next like a bullet in a tin can. The first incident was predictable. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Madison shuffled in her face pale and her eyes looking like 2 burnt holes in a blanket. Dad. Her voice was a rasp. You have to talk to him. Talk to who? What's wrong? Ryan, she said, her voice cracking. He just barreled into my room screaming about some new skin he got on Fortnite. Lily was finally asleep. Asterisk. Finally, asterisk. I sighed. I could already picture it. Ryan vibrating with an excitement he physically couldn't contain, forgetting everything else in the universe, except that one glorious singular thought he needed to share. Time's right now. Asterisk. Okay, Maddie. I'll talk to him. She just stared at me, her arms crossed tight over a milk-stained t-shirt. A talk isn't going to do anything. He needs a consequence. I'll handle it. I found Ryan in his room, headphones on, body contorting as he dodged imaginary laser fire. I tapped his shoulder. He ripped the headphones off. Dad, you should have seen it. I got the last guy with a no-scope from the top of the tower. It was insane. That's great, buddy. Hey, listen. You gotta remember to be quiet. Your niece is sleeping and you woke her up. His face fell for a second. Genuine remorse flickered in his eyes. Oh. I forgot. Sorry. It's okay. Just try to remember, all right? Knock first. Quietly. Okay, Dad. I will. He put his headphones back on, and the world outside of his screen immediately ceased to exist again. I went back downstairs. Madison was waiting, leaning against the counter, her expression unchanged. I talked to him. I said, pouring my coffee, and he said he's sorry. He forgot. Madison let out a laugh that was sharp and humorless. He forgot. Of course he forgot. He's always going to forget, Dad. That's the problem. Madison, what do you want from me? I said, my own patience starting to fray. He has ADHD. His brain doesn't work like yours. He can't help how he behaves. It's not malicious. You of all people should know that. I'm not saying it's malicious, she shot back, her voice rising. I'm saying it's disruptive. I'm saying I haven't slept more than 90 minutes at a stretch in 2 weeks, and every time I get her down, he blows it up. I need your help. I need you to be a parent. The jab landed. I am being a parent to both of my kids. That includes the one who needs a little more understanding. He's your brother. Cut him some slack. She just shook her head, a tear of pure exhaustion rolling down her cheek. Just try to keep him away from my door. Please. I tried. God, I tried. But telling Ryan to be quiet is like telling the ocean not to have waves. For the next week, it was a constant battle. Ryan, indoor voice. Ryan, stop running in the hall. Ryan, for the love of God, don't slam the door. Each time he'd give me that same look of brief, sincere regret. Sorry, Dad. And 5 minutes later, he'd be bouncing off the walls again, the promise vaporized by the next impulse. Madison started putting a chair under her doorknob. It didn't work. Ryan, thinking the door was just stuck, would jiggle and yank it until the chair scraped across the floor with a screech that was worse than him just opening it. Or he'd just bang on the wood. Maddie, you in there? The internet's down. The noise always woke the baby. The house grew thick with the tension you could taste. Madison stopped talking to me, communicating only in sharp, single-word answers. She looked haunted. Lily was always fussy, now overtired and miserable. Her cries were a constant grating soundtrack in the background of our lives. I felt Madison's anger radiating through the floorboards. And it made me angry too. I was doing my best. I was juggling a sleep-deprived daughter with a newborn and a special needs son. Why couldn't she see I was on her side, on both her sides? She was making it seem like I had to choose. This afternoon, a miracle happened. Silence. Lily had been screaming for 3 solid hours. A painful, colicky shriek that felt like it was drilling into my skull. I watched Madison pace the living room with her bouncing, shushing her face, a mask of desperation. Finally, around 4 o'clock, the crying stopped. Madison stood frozen in the middle of the room for a full minute listening. Then she crept up the stairs with the stealth of a bomb squad technician. I sank into the recliner, the sudden quiet roaring in my ears. I turned on the TV, keeping the volume on a whisper. Ryan was in his room, hopefully engrossed in his game. For the first time all day, I felt my shoulders unclench. Maybe we'd turned a corner. Maybe things would be okay. I closed my eyes just for a second, soaking in the peace. That's when I heard it. A loud, triumphant shout from upstairs. Yes, level up! It was Ryan. His voice, unfiltered and explosive, echoed through the quiet house. It was followed a half-second later by a sound that made every nerve in my body stand on end. The frantic, piercing wail of a startled baby. But there was another sound, too. A sound I'd never heard from my daughter before. It wasn't a cry or a complaint. It was a roar. A gut-wrenching scream of pure, spent fury that was more animal than human. Ryan. The sound of her bedroom door slamming open cracked like a gunshot, so hard I felt the vibration through the floor. The baby's cries pitched higher, mingling with Madison's enraged, incoherent shouting. I heard a thud, then a sharp, hurt yelp from my son. My blood ran cold. I dropped the remote and launched myself out of the chair, my heart pounding against my ribs as I took the stairs 2 at a time. I got to the top of the stairs just as Madison lunged, not at Ryan, but at her own bedroom door, slamming it shut. Ryan was on the floor in the hallway, curled up and sobbing. The baby's screams were now muffled, a desperate, frantic sound from behind the closed door. What the hell did you do? I bellowed at the door. I knelt beside Ryan, putting my hands on his shaking shoulders. Buddy, are you okay? Did she push you? He looked up at me, his face red and streaked with tears. I just wanted to tell her about the V-Bucks I earned. I forgot to knock. The door flew open again. Madison stood there, a wild look in her eyes. She wasn't holding Lily. He didn't forget to knock, Dad. He forgot he was a person. He kicked the door open because the chair was under the knob and screamed in his loudest voice 2 feet from her bassinet. On purpose. It wasn't on purpose, Ryan wailed. It was an accident. I stood up, putting myself between Madison and my son. I pointed a finger at her. I don't care what he did. Look at him. There's no excuse for making your brother cry like that. None. Her mouth fell open. It was a look of pure, unadulterated disbelief. No excuse. Are you listening to yourself? He's a little terror he needs to learn, but you won't ever teach him because it's easier to just let him run wild and call it ADHD. Don't you dare, I said, my voice dangerously low. Don't you dare use his condition against him. You have no idea what it's like for him, the battles he fights in his own head every single second. And you have no idea what it's like for me, she screamed, tears finally breaking free and carving paths through her makeup. I'm drowning, Dad, and instead of throwing me a life raft, you're holding my head underwater to make sure your precious son doesn't get his feet wet. That's when I snapped. The exhaustion, the constant noise, her ingratitude, it all boiled over. My precious son, you mean the one who was here long before you decided to show up on my doorstep with a baby and nowhere else to go? You knew what this house was like. You knew who Ryan was. If you couldn't handle your brother, maybe you should have thought of that 9 months ago? The words hung in the air, ugly and heavy. The wildness in her eyes died, replaced by something colder, sharper. Something I'd never seen before. So this is a punishment, she said, her voice flat. For needing my father. This isn't a punishment, this is reality. This is my house. Ryan lives here, and I will not have him treated like a villain because his brain is wired differently. If you can't deal with that, I said the final fatal words, tumbling out before I could stop them, then you can get out. For a long moment, she just stared at me. The baby's cries from inside the room were the only sound. Madison didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just nodded, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. Then she turned, walked back into her room, and closed the door behind her with a soft, final click. I stood in the hallway, my heart hammering. I got Ryan up and took him to his room, told him it wasn't his fault that Maddie was just tired. He sniffled and booted up his game, the crisis already fading from his mind. I went downstairs, my hands still shaking with adrenaline. I felt a surge of righteousness. I had defended my son. The one who couldn't defend himself. Madison was an adult. She'd get over it. She'd realize she was wrong to scream at a kid, her own brother. She'd come down and apologize. I poured a glass of whiskey, sank into my recliner, and waited for the apology that was surely coming. An hour passed. The only sound was the clicking of Ryan's keyboard upstairs. The baby had finally, blessedly gone quiet. Then I heard it. Not shouting, not crying. A different sound. The methodical scrape of a drawer opening. A soft thud. Another drawer. It was the sound of packing. I sat up straight, the whiskey souring in my stomach. She was bluffing. Just trying to make me feel guilty. It was petty. It was manipulative. I wasn't going to fall for it. But the sounds continued. The distinct zip of a duffel bag. The muffled click of hangers being pulled from a closet rod. I went to the bottom of the stairs. Madison, I called up. No answer. Maddie, don't be dramatic. Silence. My righteousness began to curdle into a sick, creeping dread. I walked up the stairs and stood in her open doorway. Suitcases I hadn't seen in years were open on her bed. She was folding tiny onesies and sleepers into neat stacks, her movements calm and deliberate. She didn't look at me. What are you doing? I asked, my voice weaker than I intended. She picked up a stack of diapers and placed them in a bag. Madison, stop this. You're overreacting. We can talk about this. She zipped a bag shut and slung it over her shoulder. Then she picked up another. She moved past me out of the room, as if I were a piece of furniture. I followed her downstairs, my feet feeling like lead. She set the bags by the front door. Where are you going to go? I demanded. It's almost dark. Don't be stupid. She ignored me, heading back upstairs. I heard her moving around then. She came back down holding Lily's car seat in one hand. The baby was asleep inside a tiny, perfect bundle, oblivious. My chest tightened. This wasn't a bluff. "Maddie, please," I said, my voice cracking. "Don't do this." She stopped at the front door and finally looked at me. The coldness in her eyes struck me like a physical blow. All the warmth, all the love, all the history between us, it was gone. Erased. In its place was the cool, polite disinterest you give a stranger who'd held the door for you. "You were right," she said, her voice completely devoid of emotion. "I shouldn't have come here. It was a mistake to think this was a place for her. Or for me." She turned the doorknob. "You made your choice, Dad," she said, not looking back. "You chose who needed you more. Now live with it." Then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her, and a moment later I heard the engine of her beat-up Civic turn over. I watched through the window as her taillights disappeared down the street. The house was silent. Utterly, completely silent. Ryan appeared at the top of the stairs, a shadow in the dim hallway light. "Is Maddie gone?" he asked, his voice small. "Is she still mad at me?" I stared at the empty space by the door, where my granddaughter's car seat had been just moments before. I had won. I had protected my son. I had established the rules of my house. And in the crushing, deafening silence, I realized my victory felt exactly like losing everything. Story 4. When my sister Betsy asked me to be a bridesmaid for her second wedding, she promised it would be a simple local thing. I eagerly agreed because I'd missed her first wedding while I was deployed overseas, and had carried that guilt for 15 years. But her simple plan quickly morphed into a beautifully curated financial shakedown. A $500 dress, a mandatory $2,000 Vegas bachelorette trip, and a luxury gift registry where the absolute cheapest item was a $165 artisanal French cheese knife. The final straw came when she dropped a bomb in the group chat, casually announcing that she was moving the local country club wedding to an expensive all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean. When my sister Betsy called and asked me to be her bridesmaid, I didn't hesitate. "Yes, of course, yes," I practically shouted into the phone, my voice echoing in my small apartment. It was a chance to do it right this time. Her first wedding, 15 years ago, was a blur I experienced through spotty satellite calls and a handful of blurry photos. I was on a 9-month deployment halfway across the world, sweating in a uniform while she was gliding down an aisle in silk. The guilt of missing it had settled deep in my bones, a permanent ache. This time, I was going to be the best damn bridesmaid she'd ever seen. Betsy was ecstatic. "Oh, Liz, I knew I could count on you. It's going to be so much fun. Just a simple local thing. Classy but low-key. Mark and I just want to celebrate with our real friends and family this time." Simple and local sounded perfect. At 43, my tolerance for drama was at an all-time low, and my bank account wasn't exactly overflowing. I hung up the phone, buzzing with excitement, already picturing myself zipping up her dress and holding her bouquet. The first crack in the simple facade appeared a week later in the new Betsy's Bridal Brigade group chat. A picture popped up of 4 of us photoshopped into slinky satin dresses, the color of a faded rose. They were beautiful, I'll admit. Then came the link. Asterisk, maid of honor, Sarah Times. Wow, gorgeous Bets. Asterisk. Bridesmaid Chloe Times, love it. My finger hovered over the link before I tapped it. The webpage loaded. My eyes scanned past the elegant model and landed on the price. $500 of a Mogtiv. I blinked, then did the math. With the mandatory matching shoes, $75 and alterations, I was looking at over $500. I typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on a simple thumbs up emoji. My phone buzzed with a private message from Sarah. Asterisk. A little steep right? Asterisk. I typed back instantly. Asterisk, a little. That's half my monthly grocery budget. Asterisk. Asterisk. Just the beginning, I'm afraid, Times, she replied. Asterisk. Just smile and swipe the credit card. Asterisk. Sarah was Betsy's oldest friend. She knew the terrain. I took her advice, closed the chat, and tried to forget about it. It was a one-time cost, I told myself. It's for Betsy. 2 weeks later, an email landed in my inbox with the subject line, Vegas Baby Bachelorette Bash. My heart sank. Las Vegas wasn't just a different state for me. I'm in Canada. This was an international trip. The email was a meticulously planned 4-day itinerary involving a penthouse suite VIP bottle service at 3 different clubs, a Magic Mike live show, and a mandatory all-white with a splash of neon dress code for Friday night. The estimated cost per person, not including flights or food, was $1,200. The group chat exploded. Asterisk Chloe times, oh my god, this is amazing. Asterisk bridesmaid Maria times, can't wait. I stared at my screen, feeling a cold dread creep up my spine. I did a quick search for flights. Another $600, plus the exchange rate, plus food, plus the outfits. I was looking at a $2,500 weekend. I called Betsy. Hey, Bets. Got the bachelorette email. It looks incredible. Right? It's going to be epic, she chirped. It is. It's just a little more than I was expecting. Vegas is a big trip. There was a pause on the other end. Her voice when it came back was a few degrees cooler. Liz, this is my bachelorette party. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You had one for your first... The words were out before I could stop them. I immediately regretted it. That was a potluck and a bar crawl in her hometown, she snapped. This is different. Mark and I are in a better place financially. We want to do things right. Asterisk, you are times I thought. Asterisk, I'm not. Asterisk. But I couldn't say it. I didn't want to be times that times person, the one who ruins the fun. Okay, I said, my voice small. Yeah, okay. It'll be great. I hung up and transferred money from my savings account, the one I'd been carefully building for a down payment. So much for that. The hits kept coming. There was the engagement party for which we were all expected to chip in for the catering. Then came the bridal shower hosted by her fiancé's mother, where the invitation included a link to a wishing well for cash gifts. My calendar was filling up with expensive mandatory fun. Then came the registry. The email read, your presence is the only present we need, but if you insist on spoiling us, we've put together a small list of items to help us start our new life. I clicked the link. Small was not the word I would have used. The page was a sea of designer kitchenware, high-tech gadgets, and luxury home goods. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. A silver-plated picture frame for $250. A set of 6 wine glasses for $400. A robotic vacuum for $900. I sorted the list by price low to high just to see what the entry point was. The cheapest item was a single artisanal French cheese knife. It cost $165. I laughed. It was a hollow, empty sound. This wasn't a wedding. It was a shakedown. A beautifully curated pastel-themed shakedown. I started hearing murmurs from the other side. Mark's groomsmen were complaining too. His brother, the best man, apparently had a huge fight with him about the cost of the bachelor party, a golf weekend at Pebble Beach. Even my aunt called me, whispering, "Did you see this registry, Elizabeth? $165 for a cheese knife? Does it cut the cheese by itself?" The stress was mounting. The wedding was still 4 months away, and I was already thousands of dollars in the hole. I felt trapped. Every time I thought about backing out, the image of those blurry photos from her first wedding flashed in my mind. I couldn't miss this one. I couldn't let her down again. Last night, I was sitting on my couch staring at my credit card statement when my phone chimed with an email notification from Betsy. The subject line was, in all caps, surrounded by star emojis. Asterisk. Asterisk. Big news and a very important update. Asterisk. I braced myself. What now? A mandatory pre-wedding spa day. A destination dress fitting. I took a deep breath and opened the email. My eyes scanned the first few lines of bubbly, exclamation point-filled text about love and new beginnings. Then I saw the sentence that made the air leave my lungs. After a lot of thought and a truly incredible offer, we just couldn't refuse. We've decided to move our celebration. Forget the local country club. We're going to the Caribbean. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. I didn't even flinch. I just stared at the wall, my heart hammering a frantic, furious rhythm against my ribs. The Caribbean. A second destination event. She had to be joking. I snatched the phone back up my thumb, jabbing at her contact name. It rang twice before she answered, her voice syrupy with manufactured excitement. Liz, did you see? Can you believe it? Betsy, what the hell is this? The syrup vanished. Excuse me, it's our wedding. We're excited and we wanted to share the news. The news. You just added another $2,000 to everyone's bill, at least. We all agreed to a local wedding, Betsy. That was the plan. Plans change, Liz, she said, her voice tight and defensive. Mark got a fantastic deal through his company. It's a gorgeous, all-inclusive resort. It's practically a vacation for everyone. A vacation we didn't ask for and can't afford. My own voice was rising, a tremor of pure rage running through it. The $500 dress, the Vegas trip, the registry where the cheapest thing is a cheese knife. And now this. Do you have any idea what you're asking of people? I'm asking them to celebrate my marriage, she shot back. I'm sorry if my happiness is in times inconvenience times for you. Your happiness is costing me my down payment on a house. The words exploded out of me raw and unfiltered. I'm thousands of dollars in debt for your simple local wedding. I can't do this, Bets. Nobody can. There was a brittle silence on the line. I could hear her breathing sharp and shallow. When she finally spoke, her voice was laced with a cold, dismissive pity that was worse than the yelling. You just don't get it, do you? She said softly. You've never been married. You don't understand what it takes to plan a truly special day, what it means. This is my one day to feel like a princess, and you're trying to ruin it by complaining about money. The air went out of my lungs. It was such a low blow, so perfectly crafted to wound me, that I couldn't even form a response. My single status, the quiet life I'd built for myself after years in the service, was now a weapon she was using to paint me as ignorant and bitter. This has nothing to do with me being married or not. I finally managed my voice dangerously quiet. This is about you treating your friends and family like human ATMs. If you can't afford it, Liz, maybe you should just say so, she snapped. Maybe you shouldn't be a bridesmaid after all. The threat hung in the air between us, ugly and absolute. Click. She hung up. I stood in the middle of my living room, phone in hand, shaking. My screen lit up. A private message from Sarah. Asterisk. She hung up on you too, didn't she? Asterisk. Another one from a number I didn't recognize. Asterisk. Hey, this has been Mark's best man. He gave me your number. Are we all getting financially fleeced? Or am I crazy? The guys are about to stage a mutiny over this Caribbean bullshit. Asterisk. The relief that washed over me was so intense my knees felt weak. I wasn't alone. I wasn't the bitter, unmarried sister trying to ruin everything. I was just one of the many people being bled dry by the bride and groom. The Betsy's Bridal Brigade group chat remained ominously silent for a full day. Then a new message from Betsy appeared. It was a screenshot of flight deals to Street Lucia, followed by a link to the resort's booking page. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the insane cost increase. Just a chipper message times. Let's get these rooms booked, ladies. Only 12 weeks to go. Can't wait to have my best girls by my side times, followed by a string of heart emojis. It was a power move. A dare. She was calling our bluff, knowing how hard it would be for any of us to detonate a friendship or a family relationship over this. Maria and Chloe replied with enthusiastic gifs. Sarah sent a non-committal. Looks beautiful. I stared at the message, the unspoken ultimatum, clear, get on board or get out. The image of those blurry photos from her first wedding swam in my head. The ghost of my past failure. If I backed out now, I'd be the villain of the story for the rest of our lives. The jealous sister who couldn't handle her happiness. The one who made it all about money. But if I stayed in, I'd be rewarding her. I'd be validating this monstrous entitled behavior and bankrupting myself in the process. I felt trapped, backed into a corner she had expertly constructed. For 2 days, I didn't reply. I let the silence hang there, my own little protest. On the third day, I made my decision. I wasn't going to let her win, but I wasn't going to let her push me out either. I was going to finish this on my own terms. I booked the cheapest flight I could find, one with 2 layovers, and a middle seat at the back of the plane. I RSVP'd yes to the resort. I posted a single sterile thumbs up emoji in the group chat. Then, I opened a new tab on my browser and navigated to a registry. The page loaded a monument to her greed. The $900 vacuum, the $400 wine glasses, the endless parade of overpriced homewares. I sorted the list by price low to high. There it was at the very top. The cheapest item. The entry fee to her new life. The artisanal French cheese knife. $165. I looked at the absurdly ornate silver handle, the ridiculous curve of the blade. A tool for a life I couldn't fathom, bought with money I didn't have for a sister I no longer recognized. It was the perfect symbol for the whole charade. A shakedown disguised as a celebration. A slow smile spread across my face. It wasn't a happy one. It was the smile of a soldier who has chosen her weapon. I added it to my cart. I typed in my credit card number. The number's already seared into my brain from the dress and the Vegas trip. For the gift message, I kept it simple. Congratulations. Can't wait to celebrate with you. I clicked purchase. And for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of control. She would get her bridesmaid. She would get her Caribbean wedding. And she would get her goddamn cheese knife. And when she opened it, I truly hoped, she would understand exactly what it meant. Story 5. When I finally stepped off the tarmac after a year-long military deployment, I thought I was coming home to my perfect life and my loving wife, Sarah. We spent my first week back talking about our future and starting a family. But the entire foundation of my life crumbled on a Tuesday when I found her supposedly broken old phone in a junk drawer, guessed the passcode, and uncovered a 6-month-long affair with our farm's handyman, Ryder, a guy with a pregnant wife at home. The texts were a cohesive nightmare, graphic descriptions of their hookups in my bed, confessions of unprotected sex while she and I were supposedly trying for a baby, and a vile, calculated plan for her to divorce me, for him to abandon his newborn, and for the two of them to take over my farm. The C-130's engines whined down, and the ramp dropped onto the tarmac at Fort Bragg. A year in the sand gone. Just like that. I slung my duffel over my shoulder and walked into the hangar, scanning the crowd of families. Then I saw her. Sarah. My wife. She was backlit by the North Carolina sun, looking like an angel in a white sundress. She ran to me and I dropped my gear, catching her in my arms. I buried my face in her hair. She smelled like home. Like freshly cut grass and the lavender soap she always used. I missed you so much, she whispered into my chest. It's over, I said. I'm home. For good. The first week was a blur of perfect moments. We slept in, made love, and talked for hours about the future. The farm was thriving, the house was immaculate. My life was a blueprint I'd drawn myself, and everything was exactly where it should be. We were going to start trying for a baby right now. The first crack in the foundation appeared on a Tuesday. I was looking for a spare charging cable in the junk drawer in the kitchen. Underneath a tangle of old cords and dead batteries was her old phone, the one she said had shattered when she dropped it 6 months ago. Except it wasn't shattered. A long crack spiderwebbed across the screen, but it was intact. Curiosity is a bastard. I plugged it in. The screen lit up. A passcode. I tried her birthday. No luck. I tried our anniversary. Nothing. Then I tried 1, 2, 3, 4. It opened. Her texts were still there. A 6-month-long conversation with a contact named Ryder. I started at the beginning. Asterisk. Ryder fence posts are in. Head in. Out. Asterisk. Asterisk. Sarah already. Stay. Have a beer with me. Asterisk. He was the handyman she'd hired to fix up the back 40 while I was gone. The cowboy, she'd called him. A good old boy married with a baby on the way. Just a friendly guy. I kept scrolling. The text went from friendly to flirty. Flirty to filthy. Asterisk. Ryder. Can't stop thinking about you. Asterisk. Asterisk. Sarah, then come back over. He's thousands of miles away. Asterisk. My thumb swiped faster, a slick of sweat on the screen. The words blurred into a single cohesive nightmare. I saw their first kiss described in detail. Their first time in my truck. Then in my barn. Then in my bed. Asterisk. Sarah, I love you. I've never felt this way about anyone. Asterisk. Asterisk. Ryder, I love you too. More than her. Asterisk. Her. His pregnant wife. Then I saw the text that stopped my heart. Asterisk. Sarah. Last night was amazing. I love feeling you inside me with nothing between us. Asterisk. Unprotected. While we were planning to start a family. My family. The bile rose in my throat. I ran to the bathroom and heaved into the toilet until there was nothing left. I sat on the cold tile, the phone still clutched in my hand. They had planned a future. He was going to leave his wife after the baby was born. She was going to leave me the day I got home. They'd sell his place and live here. On my farm. In my house. The front door opened. Alan, honey, I'm home. I splashed water on my face and shoved the phone deep into my pocket. I walked out of the bathroom and forced a smile. My military training kicked in. Compartmentalize, suppress, survive. Hey, I said, my voice steady. How was your day? She kissed me. It felt like poison. Great, I was thinking we could grill steaks tonight. Celebrate. Celebrate what? Just you being home, she said, beaming. Us. The next few weeks were a special kind of hell. I lived a double life. On the outside, I was the happy returning husband. I went to the gym, I worked on the farm, I smiled at dinner. On the inside, I was a ghost. At night, I'd lie next to her staring at the ceiling, replaying their texts in my head. Some nights, I'd go to my gun safe, open it, and just look at my service pistol. The thought was a cool, dark comfort. A final way out. But I'd slam the safe shut, my whole body shaking. She never noticed a thing. She'd curl up against me talking about baby names. Finn for a boy, Olivia for a girl. She wanted to paint the spare bedroom a soft yellow. My stoicism started to fray. One afternoon, I was in the workshop trying to fix a generator. My hands were trembling, my breath caught in my chest. The walls felt like they were closing in. I slid down the wall, gasping for air, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The door creaked open. It was Sarah. Alan, oh my God, what's wrong? She knelt beside me. I couldn't speak. I could only shake my head. Is it your new pre-workout stuff? She asked, her voice dripping with concern. I told you that stuff was too strong. You need to be more careful. She helped me up, leading me into the house like a child, completely oblivious. She saw a panic attack and blamed it on creatine. It wasn't a lack of perception. It was a complete refusal to see. That was it. That was the moment I went from victim to soldier. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Then I hired a private investigator, an old army buddy who owed me a favor. I just need to know if it's still happening, I told him. Confirmation. 2 days later, Sarah kissed me goodbye. I'm meeting Stephanie for lunch, and then we're going shopping. I'll be back around 5. Love you. Love you too, I said. The words tasted like ash. I spent the afternoon cleaning my rifles, taking them apart, oiling the pieces, putting them back together. A calm, methodical task. A focus for the rage. My phone buzzed. A text from the PI. It was a picture. Grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Sarah getting out of her car in a Target parking lot. She was smiling, walking toward a dusty Ford F-250. Ryder's truck. He was leaning against the driver's side door, grinning back at her. The picture was time-stamped 5 minutes ago. My stomach twisted into a knot of ice. She was with him. Right now. My phone buzzed again. A new text. From Sarah. Asterisk, having so much fun with Steph, we're trying on dresses. Wish you were here, miss you already, XOXO asterisk. I stared at the 2 messages on my screen, stacked one on top of the other. A picture of my wife meeting her lover. A lie about shopping with a friend. The world didn't explode. It just went silent and sharp like the moment after a flashbang goes off. The ringing in my ears stopped. The fog in my head cleared. There was only the mission. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and opened the junk drawer. I took out her old phone, the cracked repository of my own personal hell, and plugged it in. I photographed the screen with my phone capturing the worst of it. The I love yous. The plans for my house. The text about unprotected sex. I saved the PI's picture. Then I went on Facebook. It took me less than 5 minutes to find Ryder's profile. His wife's name was Chloe. Her profile picture was a maternity shot, her hands cradling a perfect round belly. Her public posts were full of excitement about their baby boy. My finger hovered over her name. I copied the link to her profile. Then I sat in my armchair in the living room and waited. It was the easiest thing I'd done in months. There was no rage, no sorrow, just a cold, hard sense of purpose. An objective to be taken. The front door opened a little after 5. I'm home, she sang, dropping shopping bags by the door. You would not believe the sale they had at Belk. She came over and leaned down to kiss me. I turned my head so her lips landed on my cheek. She frowned. Everything okay? Where were you today, Sarah? I asked. My voice was flat. Devoid of everything. I told you with Stephanie. Shopping. The lie came so easily. So practiced. That's funny, I said, not looking at her. because Stephanie posted a picture of her and her kids at the zoo this afternoon. She tagged her mom. Said they were spending the whole day together. The air in the room changed. The pressure dropped. Oh, well, we just went for a bit in the morning and then... She started the lies already tangling. I held up my phone, showing her the PI's photo. Her smiling face walking toward Ryder's truck. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. You're still seeing him, I said. It wasn't a question. Alan, it's not what it looks like. We just met for coffee to talk? For closure? Closure, I repeated the word. It tasted like dirt. While you were texting me about trying on dresses, I didn't want you to worry. I knew how it would look, she cried, the tears already starting to well. It meant nothing, I swear. It's over. I chose you. I watched her a specimen under glass. The performance was flawless. The panicked regret, the pleading eyes. It was all a lie. I had read the script. I knew how the story was supposed to end. With me gone. I see, I said. I picked up my phone. I had already drafted the message. I created a new group text. I added Sarah, her mom, her dad, her sister Emily, and Chloe Ryder's pregnant wife. I attached the 5 screenshots. The photo from the parking lot. The text about loving him more than me. The plan to take my farm. The one about having unprotected sex. And the picture of her lying texts from this afternoon. I didn't add a single word of my own. I just hit send. A moment of silence hung in the air. Then the buzz. Her phone on the entryway table. My phone in my hand. Her face went from pale to sheet white as she grabbed her phone. Her eyes darted across the screen, the realization dawning. Her phone began to ring. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. She ignored it. It rang again. Her father. What did you do? She whispered, her voice trembling with a fury that had nothing to do with remorse. What did you do? I told the truth, I said, standing up. Something you seem to have forgotten how to do. You sent that to Chloe. Are you insane? She's pregnant. And you were sleeping with her husband. Unprotected. Did you think about her then? She collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing. It was just a fling. Alan A. Mistake. We can fix this. I can fix this. My phone rang. It was her father. I put it on speaker. Alan, what the hell is this? You're airing our dirty laundry to everyone, he boomed. Your daughter's been having an affair for 6 months, Bill. I thought you should know. For Christ's sake, son, you were gone a year. What did you expect? A woman has needs, he yelled. You've always been so distant. You can't just shut down and expect her to wait around forever. I heard her mother in the background. This is your fault, Alan. You pushed her to this. I looked at Sarah. She wasn't protesting. She was just sitting there, letting them defend her. Letting them blame me. I clicked the phone off and dropped it on the table. Get your things, I said. I want you out, tonight. The divorce was filed the next day. The battle lines were drawn. Her family treated me like a leper. My friends, the ones who had been there when I put on the uniform and when I took it off, circled the wagons. They brought me beer and takeout, sat with me in silence on the porch, and never once told me I should have seen it coming. Sarah sent me desperate texts. Asterisk. Please. Let's go to counseling. I'll do anything to make this right. I still love you. Asterisk. It was all noise. 2 weeks after the confrontation, my PI sent me one final email free of charge. It was a screenshot of Sarah's updated LinkedIn profile and a confirmation of a submitted application. A job in Austin, Texas, Ryder's hometown. She was pleading for our marriage with one hand and planning her escape with the other. The divorce was brutally, blessedly fast. She didn't fight for the house or the farm. She couldn't. It was all mine before she ever came into the picture. She took her car, her clothes, and the life she had built on lies, and she was gone. I heard through the grapevine that Ryder's wife had the baby, a healthy boy, and filed for divorce the following week, moving back to her parents' house. The first few months alone were quiet. The kind of quiet that buzzes. I'd walk the property, I'd cleared stand in the house I'd built, and feel like a ghost. I had been dismantled bolt by bolt down to the concrete slab of my foundation. There were nights the gun safe still called to me, a dark whisper in the silence. But one morning I woke up and the first thing I thought about wasn't her. It was the split rail fence that needed mending by the creek. I got up, made coffee, and went to work. My hands felt steady. The sun on my back felt warm. I had been so focused on being the rock, the stoic soldier, the self-sufficient man. I thought vulnerability was a liability, a weakness to be trained out of you. I was wrong. Vulnerability is what's left when the bullshit is burned away. It's the foundation. Faith, my friends, my own two hands, that's what I rebuilt on. I don't know what happened to her or to him, and I don't care. Their story is over. Mine is just beginning again. The blueprint of my life was shattered, but the land is still here. And for the first time in a long time, I'm free to build whatever I want. Story 6. Buying my first house at 27 meant I finally had a front door I could lock against my family, specifically my Uncle Frank. For decades, Frank has used an unverified childhood brain injury as a permanent get-out-of-jail-free card to be a cruel, abusive bully heavily enabled by my dad. When I threw a housewarming party with my girlfriend Chloe, I established one firm rule: no assholes allowed, which meant Frank was explicitly banned. My dad completely ignored my boundaries and brought him anyway. Within 10 minutes of arriving, a half-drunk Frank sneered at my hard work, insulted my house, and then turned to Chloe in front of all my friends to ask what a pretty little thing was doing with a loser like him. That was the exact moment a lifelong chain inside me finally snapped. The key in my hand felt heavier than it was. Not just a piece of brass, but a 30-year mortgage, a testament to surviving my 20s and the official deed to my own little patch of quiet. For the first time in my 27 years, I had a front door I could lock against the world. Against my family. Specifically against my Uncle Frank. Frank is 53, and for every one of those years, he's been a walking, talking black hole of a man. The family lore is that he fell out of a tree when he was 9 and suffered a mild brain injury. There's no medical record of this, of course. No doctor's note. Just a convenient all-purpose excuse handed down through the generations to explain away a lifetime of being a world-class asshole. It's the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. Frank screaming at a waitress times the injury. Asterisk. Frank's making my cousin cry at her own wedding times. Remember what he went through. Asterisk. Frank's telling me I'll never amount to anything times. He doesn't mean it, Gavin. It's just the thing with his head. Asterisk. So when I planned the housewarming party, a celebration of my new Frank-proof fortress, he was pointedly, specifically, and deliberately not on the guest list. My mistake was telling my dad. "Sounds great, son," he'd said over the phone 2 days before the party. "Your mother and I are so proud. We'll be there. Oh, and I'll pick up Frank on the way." The line went silent. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of a clock, the sound of my sanctuary's walls dissolving into sand. "No," I said. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no, you will not be picking up Frank. He's not invited. "Gavin, don't be like that," he said, his voice shifting into that familiar wheedling tone of the professional enabler. "It's a family party. He's your uncle. It's times my times party and times my times house. And my one house rule is, no assholes allowed. Frank is the king of them." A heavy sigh crackled through the phone. "You know how he is. That thing that happened when he was a kid, it's hard for him. This would mean a lot. It would mean a lot to Times Dad. It would mean you don't have to deal with his whining about being left out." "I'm not doing it." The answer is no. "I thought I'd won. I really did. I thought for once the door I'd locked would actually stay shut." The day of the party was perfect. Chloe, my girlfriend of 3 years, had orchestrated the whole thing with the precision of a drill sergeant. She'd strung fairy lights across the new deck I'd built. She'd curated a playlist that was just the right mix of chill and upbeat. The air smelled like grilled burgers and freshly cut grass. My friends were there, my mom was beaming, and for a few hours my house felt like a home. A real one. My mom pulled me aside by the kitchen island, her hand warm on my arm. "It's a beautiful home, sweetie. You and Chloe have done such a good job." She glanced toward the front door, a flicker of anxiety in her eyes. "Your father isn't..." "He didn't." I told him no, Mom. Firmly. She nodded, but the relief on her face was temporary, like a sunbeam in a hurricane. She knew her husband, and she knew her brother-in-law. Around 8 o'clock, just as the sun was setting and the party was hitting its stride, my dad's sedan pulled into the driveway. My stomach turned to ice. He got out of the driver's side, and then the passenger door opened. Out climbed Uncle Frank. He was dressed like he was attending a parole hearing, stained polo shirt, pleated khakis, that had given up the ghost years ago. He surveyed my house, my little blue Cape Cod that I'd poured my entire life savings into, with a sneer that could curdle milk. My dad caught my eye as they walked up the path, giving me a weak apologetic shrug as if to say, "Times, what could I do, asterisk?" Frank didn't even say hello. He stepped through the front door, my front door, and his first words were, "Jesus, Gavin. It's a bit of a dive, isn't it?" He said it loudly. Loud enough for the music to feel like it dipped. Loud enough for a few of my friends to turn their heads. I felt my dad's hand on my shoulder. "He's just kidding, son," he muttered, a desperate plea in his voice. Frank ignored him and bulldozed his way to the beer cooler, grabbing one without looking. He took a long swig and continued his tour of insults. "Paint job's a little sloppy in that corner," he said, pointing at the living room wall. "And these floors, laminate tisk. Should have gone with real hardwood." I just stood there, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. I could feel Chloe's presence next to me, a silent, supportive anchor. Every comment was a rock thrown through my window. Every sneer was a scratch down the new paint. This wasn't just my house he was attacking. It was my life. My accomplishment. My future with the woman I loved. He made his way onto the deck where Chloe had been laughing with her friends. The laughter died as he approached. He looked them all up and down, his eyes finally landing on Chloe. He gave her a slow, deliberate once-over, a greasy appraisal that made my skin crawl. "You must be the girlfriend," he slurred. He hadn't been here 10 minutes and he was already half drunk. Chloe, ever the diplomat, forced a smile. "I'm Chloe. It's nice to finally meet you." "Frank," he grunted. He took another swig of his beer, then gestured with the bottle back towards me where I stood frozen in the doorway. "I gotta ask," he said, his voice carrying across the now quiet deck. "I'm just curious. What's a pretty little thing like you doing with a loser like him?" The world stopped. The fairy lights, the music, the scent of summer, it all just vanished. There was only the stunned, horrified silence of our friends and the ugly, triumphant smirk on my uncle's face. He'd found the one button he knew I couldn't ignore. He hadn't just insulted my house anymore. He'd brought his poison into the heart of my home and aimed it directly at Chloe. I saw her face. The brilliant smile she always wore faltered just for a second, but I saw it. I saw the hurt. And in that instant, something inside me, a chain I'd been wearing my whole life, finally snapped. My dad was already moving, starting his usual routine. "Frank, that's enough. Come on, let's get you a burger." I put a hand on my dad's chest, stopping him cold. I didn't look at him. I didn't look at Chloe or my friends or my mother, whose face was a mask of dread. My eyes were locked on one person. The low, dangerous calm in my own voice surprised me. "Uncle Frank, come here." I grabbed his bicep. His arm was surprisingly soft, flabby under the stained polo shirt. He tried to pull back, but he was drunk and I was fueled by a type of white-hot clarity I'd never felt before. "We're going to have a chat." I dragged him off the deck, past the stunned faces of my friends, through my new living room, and right out the front door I had been so proud of. I didn't stop until we were on the lawn under the harsh glare of the porch light. The party music sounded distant now. "What the hell is your problem?" he slurred, yanking his arm free. "No, what is Times? Your Times problem," I shot back, my voice low and shaking with fury. "For my entire life, my entire goddamn life, I have watched you terrorize every single person in this family. I have watched you make my mom cry, my cousins hide, and my dad invent 1,000 pathetic excuses for you. I got an injury." "Stop." I put a hand up, cutting him off. The word was a blade. "Do not say it. Do not use that pathetic 30-year-old lie. There is nothing wrong with your brain that being a decent human being wouldn't fix. You're not injured, Frank. You're just a mean, bitter bully, and you've been getting away with it for far too long." He looked genuinely shocked, his jaw slack. It was like watching a cartoon character get hit with an anvil. He had no script for this. "You came into my home," I continued, stepping closer, my voice getting louder. "A home I worked my ass off for. A place Chloe and I built together. And with your first breath, you tried to burn it down. You insulted my house, you insulted my life, and then you insulted her. You don't get to do that." "I was just joking around," he sputtered, finally finding his voice. "Was it a joke when you told my cousin her husband would probably leave her within a year? Was it a joke when you told me I'd be working dead-end jobs for the rest of my life? It's never a joke, Frank. It's poison. And you are done spewing it around me." I pointed a finger at his chest. "Here's the new reality. You have two options. Option 1, you walk back onto that deck, you find Chloe, and you apologize to her. A real apology. And then for the rest of the night, you sit in a chair and you don't say a single goddamn word to anyone. Option 2, you get your ass off my property right now and you never ever come back. You will not be invited to my wedding. You will never meet my kids. We are done. For good. Choose." He stared at me, his face turning a blotchy red. The shock was curdling into his usual rage. I could see the gears turning, the calculation of how to twist this, how to make himself the victim. An apology was out of the question. It would be an admission of fault, a crack in his armor of assholery. "You can't talk to me like this," he snarled. "I'm your uncle." "You're a guest in my house who just insulted my girlfriend," I countered, my voice flat and cold. "The title uncle doesn't grant you a lifetime pass to be cruel. Time's up. What's it going to be?" He gave a theatrical, disgusted sigh. He looked back at the house, at the warm lights, and the silhouettes of people who were happy without him. He couldn't stand it. "Fine," he spat. "I'm leaving." He turned and stomped toward the driveway, fumbling in his pocket for his phone. He didn't look back. I watched him go, my whole body trembling. I waited until I heard my dad's car door slam shut. The engine started and the headlights cut a path across my lawn before the car screeched out onto the street. The silence he left behind was deafening. I took a deep breath and walked back inside. Every eye was on me. The music had been turned down. My dad stood by the doorway, his face pale and etched with panic. "Gavin, what did you do?" I did what you should have done 30 years ago, I said, my voice hoarse. I walked right past him. Chloe met me in the middle of the room. She put her hands on my arms, her eyes searching mine. Are you okay? Yeah, I breathed a genuine smile, finally breaking through. Yeah, I think I am. My mom came over and hugged me tight. Thank you, she whispered in my ear so only I could hear. Oh, Gavin, thank you. That was the moment the first phone buzzed. It was my friend Mark across the room. He glanced down at his phone, a confused look on his face. Then another buzz. One of Chloe's friends. Then Chloe's phone in her back pocket. Then mine. I pulled it out. A text from my Aunt Carol Frank's sister. Asterisk. Carol. What did you do to Frank? He's hysterical. Said you attacked him and threw him out for no reason. I can't believe you'd be so cruel. You know he's sensitive because of his injury. Asterisk. My blood ran cold. The retaliation had begun. Chloe read the text over my shoulder. Her phone was lighting up with notifications from a family group chat I wasn't in. She showed me the screen. My cousin Megan times Frank just texted Dad. He says Gavin went crazy on him. Called him a bunch of names in front of everyone. Asterisk. My Uncle Robert times. Unbelievable. After all, Frank has been through. Gavin's always been arrogant? Asterisk. A war was being declared, and Frank was launching his offensive from the passenger seat of my dad's car. He was reframing the narrative in real time, painting himself as the wounded party, and me as the unhinged, ungrateful nephew. My dad was now on his phone, his back to me. I could hear his hushed, frantic tones. No, he just overreacted. Frank, just calm down. I'll talk to him. He was already doing damage control. For Frank. The party was effectively over. My friends blessed them, tried to restart the music to keep the mood light, but the schism was palpable. The air was thick with it. Within minutes, the battle lines were drawn. My dad's side of the family, the enablers, the peacekeepers, the ones who had spent a lifetime building Frank's protective bubble, were firing off texts, calling each other, consolidating their support for the victim. My mom, on the other hand, stood by my side, a silent, steely sentinel. My friends gathered around, offering me beers and quiet words of support. Dude, he was a total jerk. You did the right thing. Chloe wrapped her arm around my waist, a gesture of unwavering solidarity. Let them talk, she said, her voice firm. We know what happened. I looked around my new home. The fairy lights were still twinkling on the deck. The smell of burgers still hung in the air. But the quiet I'd bought was gone. The fortress I thought I'd built had been breached not by Frank, but by the toxic system that protected him. By kicking him out, I hadn't just removed one man from my party. I had taken a sledgehammer to the very foundation of my family. The rift was massive, and it was immediate. And looking at Chloe, feeling my mom's hand on my back, I knew it was a war I was supposed to have started long ago. The cost would be high, but for the first time standing in the wreckage, I felt free. Story 7. When my 9-year-old sister Chloe, the family's golden child, announced she was marrying her 6-year-old former high school AP history teacher, my parents were absolutely thrilled. They completely ignored the blatant grooming because Mark was a respectable, stable man on paper, and they dismissed my disgust as just the bitter jealousy of the family's black sheep. I knew yelling wouldn't stop the wedding, so at the reception I pulled Chloe into a coat closet, pressed a secret burner phone into her hand, and told her that no matter what, I would always be her way out. I spent the next year living 5 hours away, waiting patiently until the night she finally called me terrified. whispering that Mark was forcing her to remove her birth control implant so they could start a family. We're getting married. Chloe held up her left hand like it was the Holy Grail. The diamond was small but impossibly bright under our dining room chandelier. My mother gasped a fluttery theatrical sound, and my father beamed a proud booming laugh echoing off the walls. I just stared at my 19-year-old sister, at the ring on her finger, and at the man sitting next to her, his hand resting possessively on her thigh. Mark Anderson, 36 years old. Her former AP history teacher. Isn't it wonderful, Mom cried, rushing over to hug Chloe, then Mark. Congratulations, son, Dad said, clapping Mark on the shoulder. Welcome to the family. Son. The word felt like a shard of glass in my throat. I looked at Mark's face at the self-satisfied smile playing on his lips, the crow's feet crinkling at the corners of his eyes. He'd had those same crow's feet when he was grading Chloe's papers. When she was 16. Teresa, Chloe's voice was bubbly, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face when she saw mine. Aren't you happy for me? I pushed my chair back from the table. Can I talk to you for a second, Chloe, in the kitchen? Mark's smile tightened just a fraction. Anything you need to say to Chloe, you can say in front of me, Teresa. We're a team now. I ignored him. Chloe. Now, in the kitchen, I shut the door. The sounds of celebration were muffled. What is wrong with you, Chloe hissed, her arms crossed over her chest. You're ruining my moment. He's 36, Chloe. You're 19. It's just a number. We're in love. He was your teacher, I said, my voice low and urgent. He started texting you about your potential when you were a sophomore. He gave you extra credit for office hours no one else had. Don't you see what this is? I see that I'm in love with a wonderful, mature man, and my own sister is trying to destroy my happiness. She shot back, her eyes welling up. You've always been jealous of me. The door opened. Mom stood there, her face a mask of disapproval. Teresa, stop this. Chloe has found a good man with a stable job. He's a respected teacher. Why can't you just be happy for her? Because he groomed her, Mom. The power imbalance is insane. Don't use that kind of language in this house, Dad said, appearing behind her. You're being dramatic. Mark adores her. This is the best thing that could have happened to Chloe. Chloe, the golden child. The one who never messed up, who got straight A's, who was now marrying a respectable man. I was the screw-up who dropped out of college for a semester and worked at a bar to figure things out. My concerns didn't count. They were just the bitter ramblings of a failure. The next few months were a special kind of hell. I was dragged to cake tastings and dress fittings, a silent, disapproving ghost, in a whirlwind of white tulle and buttercream. At the bridal shower, all of Mom's friends cooed about how lucky Chloe was to land such a mature, settled man. He'll take such good care of her, they all said. No one mentioned that she hadn't even been able to legally drink champagne at her own engagement party. Every time I tried to talk to Chloe, she shut me down. Every time I tried to reason with my parents, they told me to get over my jealousy. I was completely alone watching a train wreck happen in slow motion, and everyone else was cheering it on, throwing confetti. The wedding day was bright and sunny, a perfect mockery of the storm in my gut. I stood in my hideous bridesmaid dress and watched my little sister, my baby sister, walk down the aisle toward a man old enough to be her father. As he slid the ring onto her finger, he caught my eye and gave a small, triumphant smirk. He'd won. That was it. That was the moment I realized fighting them was useless. Yelling and screaming wouldn't break through the delusion. I couldn't save her by force. I had to play a different game. At the reception, while everyone was dancing, I pulled Chloe into the coat closet. I pressed a small rectangular box into her hand. What's this? She asked, her voice slurring slightly from the champagne. It's a phone. It's not on the family plan. Just mine. Only you and I have the number. Our parents had a strict no cell phone until you're married rule for her. A rule Mark had enthusiastically supported. She looked confused. Why? I grabbed her shoulders, my voice barely a whisper. I'm done fighting you, Chloe. I love you. And no matter what happens, no matter where I am, you will always have a way to call me. No questions asked. No judgment. Ever. Do you understand? She nodded slowly, tucking the box into her purse. A week later, I packed my bags. I told my parents I got a job offer in a city 5 hours away. They were relieved. The black sheep, the source of all the negativity, was finally leaving, letting their perfect little family get on with their perfect little life. The next year was quiet. I kept my conversations with Chloe light and breezy. I never asked about Mark. I never said, I told you so. I just listened. I learned to read the spaces between her words. The way her voice got a little too bright when she talked about the new recipes she was trying, how she was always at home when I called. He'd convinced her to drop her community college classes to focus on making a home for them. She was becoming a ghost. I was her lifeline, and I had to be patient. I had to wait for her to be ready to grab it. Then one rainy Tuesday night, my phone rang. It was the secret phone. My heart hammered against my ribs. In a year, she'd never used it. I answered on the first ring. Chloe. Her voice was a tiny, terrified thread. Tess. I'm here. What's wrong? There was a shaky breath on the other end. He wants me to make a doctor's appointment. Okay, for what? I heard her swallow hard. To get my implant removed. He says it's time. He wants to start trying for a baby. A cold, sharp rage, the kind I'd been swallowing for years, surged through me. Chloe, listen to me, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Don't do anything. Don't make the appointment. I'm coming home. I'm getting in my car right now. The 5-hour drive felt like 5 minutes. I didn't stop for gas, coffee, or to piss. I just drove, fueled by a year of simmering rage. Before I even killed the engine in front of their perfect little suburban house, I pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo app, and hit record. I shoved it deep into the front pocket of my hoodie. I didn't bother knocking. The door was unlocked. They were in the living room. Chloe was curled on the couch, looking small and pale. Mark was standing over her, his voice low and placating. The predator soothing its prey. It's the natural next step, sweetheart, he was saying. A family is what we've always talked about. He saw me then. His face hardened, the charming teacher mask cracking to reveal the ugly thing underneath. Teresa. This is a private conversation. I'm not leaving, I said, planting my feet in the entryway. Chloe, go pack a bag. Chloe looked from me to him, a deer trapped between a wolf and a speeding car. She's not going anywhere with you, Mark sneered, taking a step towards me. You've been poisoning her mind for a year with that little secret phone. Did you think I didn't know I'm not stupid? My blood ran cold. You knew. Of course I knew. I let her have her little secret. It kept her docile. He looked over his shoulder at her. But the games are over. You're a wife now, Chloe. It's time to be a wife. He turned back to me. Now get out of my house. It's her house too, I said, my voice shaking with fury. And she doesn't want to have a baby with you. She'll do what's best for our family, he hissed, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper as he closed the distance between us. She'll do what I tell her to do. No, a small voice said from the couch. We both turned. Chloe was on her feet, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. No. I won't. Mark's face contorted with a rage that was terrifying in its suddenness. The mask didn't just crack, it shattered. He forgot about me for a second and turned on her. What did you just say to me? She said no, I snapped, stepping between them. You heard her. We're leaving. That's when he lost it. His control, his composure, everything he'd built his life on just evaporated. He wasn't a respected teacher anymore. He was just a bully who'd been told no. You, he spat at me, his finger jabbing at my face. You did this. You ruined everything. He grabbed my arm, trying to haul me toward the door. I wrenched it away. Don't touch me. His eyes were wild. He drew his hand back and swung. I saw it coming. A year of waiting for this, a lifetime of being underestimated, it all coiled into my gut and shot up my arm. I moved first. I wasn't a scared kid anymore. I was a woman who'd worked late-night bar shifts and knew how to handle trouble. I pivoted, and my fist connected with his jaw. It wasn't a movie punch. It was a messy, ugly crack of bone and cartilage. He staggered back his hand, flying to his face, a look of pure shock in his eyes. He stumbled over the coffee table and crashed onto the floor. The room was silent, except for his wheezing breath. Then a gasp. Chloe was staring her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. Not at me. At him. At the pathetic, bleeding man on her floor. The illusion was gone. She wasn't looking at the charming, mature man her parents adored. She was looking at a monster. And she was finally seeing him clearly. He hit you, she whispered, her voice filled with a horrifying clarity. He was going to hit you. Mark, clutching his jaw, scrambled for his phone on the end table. You're crazy, he sputtered, blood trickling from his lip. You're both crazy. I'm calling the police. Assault. I'm having you arrested. Go ahead, I said, my heart still hammering. I carefully pulled my own phone from my pocket and stopped the recording. Call them. The cops arrived to a bizarre scene. Mark, holding a bag of frozen peas to his jaw, spinning a tale about his unhinged sister-in-law breaking into his home and attacking him unprovoked. I stood silently by the door and Chloe sat on the stairs wrapped in a blanket, looking like a ghost. She just flew at me, Mark said, playing the victim with practiced ease. One of the officers, a tired-looking woman with a notepad, turned to me. And your side of the story? My side is on my phone, I said, holding it out. He admitted to knowing about a secret phone he used to monitor his wife. He confessed to telling her what to do, and he threatened me before he took a swing. I just defended myself. I played the last 2 minutes of the recording. The officer's expression never changed, but she listened intently. The threats, the grab, the sound of the swing muffled, followed by the sharp crack of my fist connecting. It was all there. She looked at Chloe. Is this what happened? Chloe nodded, her voice barely audible. Yes. He was going to hit my sister. He was screaming. That was enough. They took our statements and left. No arrests were made. Just a recommendation that I not remain in the house. No problem there, I said. As soon as they were gone, I called my boss, Sarah. She ran a small marketing firm and had taken a chance on me when I was just a disillusioned dropout. She was more of a mentor than a boss. It happened, I said, no preamble. I need that lawyer you mentioned once. I'm on it, she said without hesitation. Is your sister safe? She's about to be. We packed a suitcase for Chloe in total silence. Just the essentials. Mark stayed in the living room, a thundercloud of impotent rage making furious phone calls. I knew who he was calling. Sure enough, as we walked out the front door, my parents' car screeched into the driveway. They both got out, their faces twisted with fury. Mom rushed right past me to Mark, fussing over his face. What did you do? She shrieked, turning on me. Look what you did to him. He swung at me, Mom. I have it on tape. I don't care what you have on tape, my father boomed, his face beet red. You have destroyed your sister's marriage after everything we did for her for you both. Chloe flinched behind me. You did this to her, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You handed her over to this creep on a silver platter because he looked good on paper. You never listened. You never once cared if she was happy, only if she looked happy. You've always been jealous, Mom sobbed, clinging to Mark's arm. You couldn't stand to see her with a good stableman, so you ruined it. The golden child's perfect life shattered. And it was all my fault. It was the only story they could ever accept. I opened the passenger door for Chloe. She got in without a word, her face a pale, tear-streaked mask. I got in the driver's side and locked the doors. My parents were still screaming, banging on the window, but I just looked at them. Two people I had loved my whole life who had chosen an image over their own child. I put the car in reverse and pulled out of the driveway, leaving the three of them standing there in the wreckage of their perfect family portrait. Back in my small apartment 5 hours away from the blast zone, I made Chloe tea. She sat on my couch, wrapped in a quilt, staring into space. The divorce papers were already being drafted by Sarah's lawyer. She was free. She finally looked at me, her eyes clear for the first time in years. Thank you, she whispered. It was a small sound, but it was the only victory I had ever needed. Story 8. My sister-in-law, Mandy, is the kind of parent who thinks her spirited children can do no wrong, and any attempt to control them is a crime. The first time I babysat my 4-year-old nephew and 2-year-old niece, the boy drew a massive red gash across her beige living room wall with a crayon. When I tried to put him in a simple timeout, Mandy completely lost her mind, screaming at me to learn my place and explicitly banning me from ever disciplining her kids again. She told me my only job was to make sure they didn't swallow batteries or run into traffic, and otherwise I just needed to keep them happy. So when her sitter came a week later, and my mom begged me to cover their anniversary night for $100, I agreed. But only under the strict condition that I would follow Mandy's no discipline rule to the absolute letter. I'm not asking, Eleanor, I'm begging. My mom's voice on the phone had that specific pitch it gets when she's trying to leverage a lifetime of maternal sacrifice for a 10-minute favor. Mandy's sitter just canceled. It's her and David's anniversary. You'd be saving their lives. I stared at my ceiling, my glorious empty Friday night stretching before me like a promised land. A land of pizza, bad movies, and zero responsibility. Mom, I don't know anything about toddlers. Leo's, 4? And Maya's 2? I watch teenagers on TV? That's the extent of my childcare knowledge. It's just for a few hours. They'll probably be asleep most of the time, she said, a lie so blatant we both knew it. I'll add $50 to your allowance. The $50 was a low blow. It was a direct hit on my I need a new graphics card fund. Fine, I sighed. But if the house burns down, it's on you. An hour later, I was standing in my brother David's entryway, which smelled faintly of disinfectant and desperation. Mandy was buzzing around, grabbing a purse and shoving her feet into heels that looked like instruments of torture. Okay, so their schedule is on the fridge, she said, talking a mile a minute. Snacks are in the pantry, but only the organic apple puffs. No juice after 7, it makes Leo hyper. Maya's favorite show is Llama Llama Boom Boom, which is honestly the most annoying thing you will ever hear, but it keeps her quiet. Any questions? What do I do if they misbehave? I asked. It seemed like a reasonable question. Mandy paused her hand on the doorknob. She gave a tight little laugh. Oh, they're angels. They won't. Just keep them happy. She glanced at her watch. David's waiting in the car. Have fun. Then she was gone. The silence lasted for about 4 seconds. Then a small human cannonball, who I assumed was Leo, launched himself from the top of the stairs, landing on the sofa with a thud that shook the floor. He was followed by a tinier, squealing echo Maya, who promptly tried to copy him and face-planted on a cushion. We're playing Volcano, Leo announced, pointing a sticky finger at me. You're the hot lava. Okay, I said, trying to sound like a fun, capable babysitter. Rules of the volcano. "There are no rules," he shrieked with glee, and proceeded to prove it by pulling every single cushion off the couch and throwing them onto the floor. Maya, his loyal apprentice, started ripping pages out of a magazine and scattering them like confetti. This was not keeping them happy. This was surviving the apocalypse. I managed to wrangle them to the kitchen table with the promise of the organic apple puffs. They took one look at the beige airy crisps and revolted. "I want chippies," Leo demanded, crossing his little arms. "Chippies," Maya echoed, banging her fists on the table. Mandy said, "Just these puffs," I tried to reason. Leo's face crumpled. His bottom lip trembled and his eyes filled with water. It was the wind-up to a tantrum of epic proportions. I saw my peaceful evening, my $50, my very sanity flashing before my eyes. Okay, chippies," I said, caving instantly. I found a bag of potato chips in the pantry, ripped it open, and dumped a pile on each of their plates. The crying stopped on a dime. They were happy. I was following orders. The next hour was a blur of similar negotiations. I wanted to put on a Disney movie. They wanted to watch a YouTube video of some guy unboxing toys for 45 minutes straight. The YouTube video won. I suggested we play with blocks. They decided it was more fun to empty the entire toy box onto the living room rug and then ignore it. I was less of a babysitter and more of a hostage negotiator who kept losing. The real trouble started when Leo discovered the art supplies. It was a bin filled with crayons, markers, and glitter glue. "Let's draw," I said, relieved. A quiet sitting-down activity. I spread out some paper on the coffee table. Leo took a thick red crayon, looked me dead in the eye, and walked straight to the big beige living room wall. No, sweetie," I said, my voice rising in panic. "Paper. We draw on paper." He ignored me. With a triumphant grin, he dragged the crayon across the paint, leaving a waxy, blood-red gash. Maya, seeing her brother's masterpiece, grabbed a blue marker and scribbled a chaotic circle next to it. "Okay, that's enough," I said, my tone shifting from fun babysitter to panicked fraud. I gently tried to take the crayon from Leo. He screamed. It wasn't a normal kid scream. It was a piercing, guttural shriek that vibrated through my bones. He dropped to the floor, kicking his legs and pounding his fists. "My crayon, it's mine." Maya, in solidarity, threw the blue marker across the room. It hit a picture frame with a crack. My mind went blank. I had no tools for this. What did adults do? I tried to picture my own childhood. Vague images of being sent to my room surfaced. A timeout. That was a thing, right? "Leo," I said, trying to sound firm over his wails. "If you draw on the walls and scream, you have to have a timeout." I pointed to a small armchair in the corner of the room. "You need to sit there for 2 minutes and calm down." He just screamed louder, arching his back. I made a terrible split-second decision. I hooked my hands under his arms and lifted him. He went rigid, all flailing limbs and fury. He was surprisingly strong. I half-carried, half-dragged him over to the chair and sat him down. "You stay here," I commanded, feeling my heart pound. He stayed for exactly 1 second before scrambling off the chair and running, still screaming, into the kitchen. I chased after him. He grabbed the bag of chips from the table and, in a final act of defiance, dumped the entire thing onto the floor. A salty, greasy explosion of crumbs and broken chips. Maya, who had been watching the whole spectacle with wide, silent eyes, promptly burst into tears. So there I was, standing in a trash living room with crayon on the walls, a broken picture frame, and a kitchen floor covered in potato chips. Leo was hiding under the table, growling like a feral animal, and Maya was crying so hard she was making hiccuping sound. I felt the $50 wasn't just unearned. I probably owed them money for damages. I sank onto the floor, put my head in my hands, and just breathed. What was I supposed to do? Let them destroy the house to keep them happy? That couldn't be right. I was trying to formulate a new plan, any plan, when I heard a key in the front door. My blood ran cold. It was only 9 o'clock. They weren't supposed to be back for hours. The door swung open and Mandy stepped inside, a smile on her face. Hey, we decided to cut it short and just grab dessert to go. Her voice died in her throat. Her smile vanished. She took in the scene. The overturned cushion fort. The magazine confetti. The crying toddler on the floor and the chips scattered across the kitchen tile. Her eyes finally landed on the big red waxy scar on her perfect beige wall. Her gaze lifted from the crayon mark and found me sitting defeated on the floor. Her expression was perfectly still, but her eyes were brewing a storm. "What did you do?" she whispered, her voice dangerously quiet. Leo, sensing a shift in the atmospheric pressure, stopped growling and scurried out from under the table. He ran to his mom and buried his face in her legs. Maya's crying intensified, becoming a performance piece for the new audience. I tried to put him in a timeout, I said, getting to my feet. My voice was shaky. He drew on the wall, so I told him to sit in the chair. Mandy's eyes flicked from the wall to me, to the armchair in the corner, as if connecting pieces of evidence at a crime scene. The anger I expected to see about the trashed house wasn't there. It was being replaced by something colder, sharper. "You what?" "A timeout," I repeated, confused. He was screaming and drawing on the wall. I didn't know what else to do. "You don't do times anything, time," she hissed, taking a step toward me. "That's what you do. You are not his mother. You don't discipline my son." I was floored. He was destroying your house. I was trying to stop him. By physically restraining him, by punishing him, her voice was rising now, a venomous crescendo. His job is to be a child. Your job is to make sure he doesn't swallow a battery or run into traffic. That's it. You need to learn your place, Eleanor. My brother David finally shuffled in the door behind her, holding a little white bag that probably contained some overpriced slice of cheesecake. He stopped dead, his eyes wide, as he took in the wreckage. He looked from Mandy's furious face to my stunned one, opened his mouth as if to say something and then promptly closed it. A profile in courage. My place? I asked, my own anger starting to bubble up. Your kids are out of control. They are spirited, she snapped. And you have no idea what you're doing. Just get your things. She pulled her wallet from her purse, slapped $50 into my hand, and turned her back on me, kneeling to comfort her perfect-spirited little vandal. I grabbed my jacket, shot a look of pure disgust at my brother's silent, useless form, and walked out the door. The following Friday, my phone rang. The caller ID said Mandy. I stared at it until it went to voicemail. A minute later, a text popped up. Mandy? Call me? Emergency? I sighed and hit the call button. Eleanor, thank God, she said, her voice dripping with a frantic sweetness that set my teeth on edge. Listen, I am in a massive bind. Jessica just came down with the flu, and David and I have non-refundable tickets to a concert. No, I said. The line went quiet. No. No, Mandy. Last week you told me I needed to learn my place. I think my place is here in my house, not getting screamed at in yours. Look, I was stressed, she said quickly. The house was a mess. Leo was upset. I overreacted. I'm sorry. Please, Ellie. I'll pay you double. $100. Just for a few hours. $100. That wasn't just a graphics card. That was half my savings for a new monitor. I could feel my resolve crumbling. I don't know, I hedged. I promise I won't get mad. Just stick to the rules this time. My rule. An idea began to form in my mind. A beautiful, terrible, malicious idea. Okay, I said slowly, but let's be perfectly clear on this rule. You want me to keep them safe, but I am not under any circumstances to discipline them. Right. No. No timeouts. No taking things away. No redirecting them if they're doing something you wouldn't like. My only job is to prevent mortal injury and keep them happy. Exactly, she said, relieved. You get it. Just keep them happy. That's all I ask. Deal, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. I'll be there at 7. When I arrived, Mandy gave me a hug that felt like being embraced by a tense skeleton. You're a lifesaver, she said. Just following the rules, I replied with a cheerful smile. The moment the door closed, Leo picked up a toy truck and hurled it at the television. It bounced off the screen with a loud thud. Last week, I would have lunged for the truck. This week, I just watched. Hey Leo, I said brightly. Can you check if that left a mark? My eyes aren't so good from over here. He looked at me confused by the lack of scolding, then ran to the screen to inspect it. No mark. He lost interest. Maya, meanwhile, had found a Costco-sized roll of paper towels in the kitchen. She pulled the end and started running. I followed her at a leisurely pace as she unwound a fluffy white banner through the living room, around the dining table, and into the hallway. What a fun parade, Maya, I chirped. Just be careful not to trip. She giggled and kept running. An hour later, they decided they were hungry. They didn't want apple puffs. They wanted to make soup. Leo dragged a dining chair to the kitchen counter and climbed up. Okay, I said, standing beside him. Rule 1 of soup, no cleaning products, and the water can't be hot. I turned the tap to a safe, lukewarm trickle. He turned on the garbage disposal, which roared to life. Into the sink went a half-full bottle of ketchup, a fistful of flour from the canister, 2 yogurts, and a handful of shredded cheese. Maya stood on another chair, tearing up slices of bread and dropping them in like confetti. They stirred the pink lumpy sludge with a pair of tongs. The disposal ground and gurgled. The sink overflowed, sending a creamy, vaguely pink tide across the granite countertop and onto the floor. Looks delicious, I said, moving the floor mat so they wouldn't slip. You guys are great chefs. They were deliriously, ecstatically happy. And perfectly safe. The masterpiece was the living room fort. It wasn't just the couch cushions this time. They wanted every pillow and blanket in the house. I helped them drag the duvet from my brother and Mandy's perfectly made king-size bed. I helped them pull the decorative throws off the armchairs. We used the dining chairs as support beams and the silk curtains as a majestic floor-to-ceiling doorway. They emptied the toy box inside, then decided the fort needed decorations. This involved squeezing the contents of several juice boxes onto the cushions to make paint. I watched it all unfold from a safe distance, munching on the potato chips they had rejected. I was a UN peacekeeper, a neutral observer, a highly paid safety inspector. I didn't say no. I didn't say stop. I didn't say don't. When Maya tried to climb the bookshelf, I simply said, "That looks wobbly, sweetie. Maybe try climbing the fort instead. It's much safer." She did. By 10 o'clock, the house looked like it had been looted by a gang of very sticky, very short pirates. The paper towel parade route was now a slip and slide of spilled juice and yogurt. The kitchen sink was a biohazard. The living room was an apocalyptic shantytown built from their finest linens. When I heard the key in the door, I felt a serene calm wash over me. Mandy stepped inside mid-laugh at something David had said. The laugh caught in her throat. She froze. Her eyes scanned the scene from the soupy kitchen floor to the defiled state of her living room. The silence was absolute, broken only by the faint times drip, drip, drip times from the kitchen counter. What, she began, her voice a strangled choke. The hell happened? I unfolded myself from the one clean patch of carpet. Hi, guys. They had a great time. A great time, she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the yogurt-smeared duvet. My house, what did you do? I did exactly what you told me to, I said, my voice even and calm. I kept them safe and I kept them happy. I didn't discipline them. Not once. I ticked off the points on my fingers. When they wanted to make soup in the sink, I made sure they didn't use poison or hot water. When they wanted to make a fort, I made sure it was structurally sound. They were happy, Mandy. Look how happy they are. Leo and Maya were asleep inside their grimy fortress, looking like two blissful little angels. Mandy stared at me, her face a mask of incandescent rage. David just stood behind her, his mouth hanging open, looking utterly defeated by the scene. "You're not getting paid for this," she seethed. "A deal's a deal," I said, holding out my hand. $100. "Get out of my house." "Pay me first." David, in his first and only useful act of the evening, reached into his wallet, pulled out 5 $20 bills, and pushed them into my hand, refusing to meet my eyes. I walked home. The next morning, my parents cornered me at the breakfast table. Mandy had called, of course. "We are very disappointed in you, Eleanor," my dad said, his arms crossed. "You were spiteful and immature," my mom added. "There's a difference between following a stupid rule and letting children destroy a house. You could have read them a book. Played a game." "Reading a book they don't want to read is a form of discipline," I stated flatly, pouring milk over my cereal. "So is telling them they can't play a game they invented themselves?" Mandy's rule was no discipline. I followed the rule. The results are her problem, not mine. My mom shook her head. It was malicious. "Yep," I said, taking a bite. It was. They were furious, but they couldn't argue with my logic. They knew Mandy. They knew how she was. But I was her teenage sister-in-law. And she was the mother. I was the one who was supposed to bend. But I hadn't. I'd followed her orders to the letter. All I'd done was hold up a mirror. And as for my brother David, I hadn't heard a single word from him. Not a text, not a call. He had let his wife scream at me the first time, and he'd stood by and watched the fallout this time. He was completely, utterly absent. I looked at the $100 on my desk later that day. The first $50 was for babysitting. The second $50, that was for the lesson. And it was worth every single penny. Story 9. After a decade of cramming my life into shoebox apartments and saving every penny, I finally bought my dream home, a beautiful 3-bedroom Craftsman. A few weeks after I moved in, my golden child brother Kevin and his wife Sarah came over to announce they were expecting a baby. But the celebration instantly turned into a nightmare when Kevin casually informed me that I needed to sign the deed of my new house over to them. His logic, I was single and didn't need 3 bedrooms, whereas they were starting a family and deserved it more. When I furiously kicked them out, my enabling parents called to back him up, ultimately giving me a sickening ultimatum: hand over the house to my brother or be completely disowned by the family. The text from my brother Kevin lit up my phone screen. "Hey Stell, Sarah and I have huge news. Can we swing by the new place in an hour?" My heart did a little flip. Huge news could only mean one thing. A baby. Finally. I texted back an enthusiastic yes and tossed my phone onto the granite countertop, a huge, goofy grin plastered on my face. I looked around my house times house, and the grin widened. After a decade of cramming my life into shoebox apartments and saving every last cent, I'd done it. I'd bought a 3-bedroom Craftsman with a wraparound porch and a backyard big enough for a dog. The air still smelled of fresh paint and possibility. Sunlight streamed through the big bay window in the living room, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. It was perfect. And now I get to fill one of the spare rooms with toys for my future niece or nephew. An hour later, Kevin's car pulled into my driveway. He and Sarah got out, her hand resting protectively over her small, barely there bump. I met them on the porch, pulling them both into a huge hug. "I knew it," I squealed. "Congratulations." "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," Kevin said, but he was beaming. First, the grand tour. We've only seen the pictures. I led them through the house, my chest swelling with pride. They gushed over everything, the refinished hardwood floors, the subway tile in the kitchen, the spacious master bedroom. Wow, Stella. You really did it, Sarah said, running a hand along the banister as we headed back downstairs. It's incredible. It's even bigger than it looks in the photos. Kevin added his eyes, scanning the open plan living and dining area. Lots of room. Plenty, I agreed. Okay, spill. I want all the details. When are you due? Do you know what you're having? We settled on the new sofa I'd spent a month agonizing over. Kevin leaned forward, his happy-go-lucky expression shifting into something more serious. Okay, so that's kind of what we need to talk about, he began. The baby is due in March, and with our lease up in February, we need a bigger place, a family home. Oh, that's perfect timing, I said. We can start looking for you guys right away. I saw a few cute places over in the Northwood area when I was searching. Kevin and Sarah exchanged a look. It was a quick practice glance that made a knot of unease form in my stomach. We won't have to look, Kevin said slowly, his gaze sweeping around my living room again. Because we've already found the perfect house. I waited. He just stared at me, a weirdly expectant look on his face. Okay, I prompted. Where is it? You're sitting in it, Sarah said, softly placing a hand on Kevin's arm. I laughed. A short, sharp bark of disbelief. Very funny. Seriously, guys. Neither of them cracked a smile. The silence stretched thick and suffocating. The sunlight suddenly felt harsh, exposing the absurdity of the moment. You're not joking, I whispered. Of course not, Kevin said, his tone shifting from serious to matter of fact, as if he were explaining a simple math problem. Look, it makes perfect sense. Mom and I were talking about it last week. She was going to give me the money she'd saved for my down payment, but this is just cleaner. You sign the house over to me and Sarah and we're all good. My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. I was trying to connect the words he was saying, but they simply wouldn't fit together in any logical way. Sign. The house over to you, Kevin. I just bought this house. I closed 2 weeks ago. My name is on the deed. My money paid for it. I know that, he said, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. But you don't need it. You're single. What are you going to do with 3 bedrooms? This is a family home. We're starting a family. We need it. It's better for the baby, Sarah chimed in, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. All this space for him to crawl around. A yard to play in. You want what's best for your nephew, don't you? I shot to my feet, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. You cannot be serious. You can't just come into my home and demand I hand it over. That is insane. It's not a demand, Stella. It's a family decision, Kevin said, his voice rising to match mine. He stood up too, puffing out his chest. He'd always used his size to intimidate me when we were kids, and the old reflex to shrink back kicked in. I fought it. Mom and Dad already agreed. This is happening. Get out, I said, my voice trembling with rage. Don't be like this, Sarah pleaded. We're family. No, family doesn't do this. Get out of my house. Now. They left muttering about how selfish and unreasonable I was being. The second the door slammed shut, I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling as I dialed my mom. She'd sort this out. She'd tell me Kevin was being ridiculous, that it was some horrible, twisted joke. She answered on the second ring. Hello, dear. Mom, I gasped, tears starting to blur my vision. You will not believe what Kevin just did. He came here and told me I have to give him my house. There was a pause on the other end of the line. It was just a second too long. Stella, let's not be dramatic, she said, her voice smooth and placating. It was the same tone she used on Kevin when he threw a tantrum as a toddler. Your brother is starting a family. He needs a stable home. You're single? You can find a condo or something? The floor dropped out from under me. What? Mom? No? I I worked for this. For 10 years I worked and saved for this house. This is my time's house. And we are so proud of you for that, she said, her voice hardening. But your brother's needs come first right now. He's always been more sensitive than you. You're the strong one. You can handle this. He can't. The classic golden child defense. Kevin was sensitive. I was strong. Kevin needed help. I could handle it. It had been the narrative of our entire lives. So you're just giving my dream away, the dream you supposedly encouraged me to chase. Don't be selfish, Stella. This is what family does. We support each other. Your father agrees. We've already discussed it. Just sign the house over. Don't make this difficult. Difficult, I shrieked into the phone. You're trying to steal my house, and you're worried about me making it, times difficult asterisk. That is enough, a deep voice boomed from the phone. My dad was on the extension. You will do right by your brother. You will give him that house, or you are no longer a part of this family. Do you understand me? We will disown you. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, the silence of my perfect empty house pressing in on me. Disowned. The word echoed in the high-ceilinged rooms. For a house. Asterisk, my time's house. The rest of the day was a blur of frantic texts and calls. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins. Every single one of them had been prepped. They all delivered the same message. Don't be selfish. Think of the baby. Your family needs you to do this. It was a coordinated, suffocating assault. My phone buzzed and pinged relentlessly until I finally shut it off, collapsing onto the sofa in a state of shock. The next morning, my phone rang again. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something compelled me to answer. It was my Aunt Carol, my mom's sister. Her voice was strained thick with a mix of anger and something else I couldn't place. Stella, she said, her voice cracking. You need to get to the hospital. What? Why? What's going on? It's your father, she sobbed. He collapsed. The stress of all this fighting. His heart. The doctor said it was a major cardiac event. She took a shuddering breath before delivering the final venomous blow. My sister said to tell you that this is all your fault. The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering onto the hardwood floor. My fault. The words slammed into me, sucking the air from my lungs. I sank to my knees, the smell of fresh paint suddenly cloying and suffocating. My father was in the hospital because of me. Because of a house? I don't remember driving to the hospital. All I remember is the sterile, white hallway and the way my mother's face contorted into a mask of pure hatred when she saw me. What are you doing here? She hissed, blocking the door to his room. Kevin and Sarah stood behind her, a unified wall of accusation. Haven't you done enough? I want to see him, I stammered my voice, a pathetic whisper. No, Kevin said, stepping forward. You don't get to. You did this to him, all that stress, all that yelling. You upset him. The guilt was a physical weight crushing my chest. I almost broke. I almost said the words, asterisk, you can have it, just take the house. Just let me see him. Asterisk. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Mark, my boyfriend of 2 years. His name on the screen was like a lighthouse in a hurricane. I stumbled away from my family's venom down the hall and answered, Stell. What's going on? Your aunt called my mom, he said, his voice a steady anchor. I choked out the story, the words tumbling over each other in a messy, tear-soaked confession. Listen to me, he said, his tone firm but gentle. This is not your fault. His health has been bad for years. They are doing what they have always done, using your father as a weapon to control you. Do not let them win. I'm on my way. His words cut through the fog of guilt. He was right. This was their pattern. A pattern I'd been blind to my whole life. I had posted a vague, desperate version of the story on a legal advice forum the night before, and hundreds of strangers had said the same thing. Times. This is manipulation. This is financial abuse. Do not give in. Asterisk. I hung up with Mark, took a deep breath, and walked back to my family. They looked like vultures waiting for the final surrender. I looked my mother in the eye. I am not giving him the house, I said, my voice shaking but clear. This is insane, and I am done. Then you are done with us, my father's voice rasped from inside the room. He was awake. He'd heard everything. You are dead to me. That was it. The final thread snapped. I turned and walked away without looking back. I got in my car and made 2 phone calls. The first was to a real estate agent. 5 years ago, I'd bought my parents a small, manageable condo closer to their doctors when their old house became too much. The deed was in my name. I paid the mortgage and the taxes. It was a gift. A gift I was now taking back. I want to list it immediately, I told the agent. As is. Price it to sell yesterday. The second call was to my company's HR department. My parents had been on my generous health insurance plan since I got the job. I have a qualifying life event, I said, my voice cold and robotic. I need to remove 2 dependents from my plan. The finality of it felt like setting a bone. Painful, but necessary. When Mark arrived at my house, I was sitting on the porch swing, watching the sun set on my perfect, hard-won home. He wrapped his arms around me, and I just let myself break. They disowned me, I told him. So I'm making it official. The fallout was nuclear. My mother received the 30-day notice to vacate and called me screaming obscenities I didn't know she knew. Kevin launched a smear campaign on social media, painting me as a greedy, heartless monster who was making her parents homeless and killing her father over some wood and drywall. Friends I'd had since kindergarten sent me texts telling me how disappointed they were in me. Then came the lawsuit. My parents, with Kevin as their mouthpiece, sued me for the value of the condo, claiming I had promised it to them as a permanent gift. It was baseless, ridiculous, and designed to bleed me dry. But I had the paperwork. Every mortgage payment from my account, every tax bill with my name on it. The judge threw it out in less than 10 minutes. Through it all, Mark was my rock. His family, who had always been kind, wrapped me in a love I'd never experienced. His mother called me every day. His father helped me change the locks on my doors. One evening, after a particularly brutal day of reading hateful comments online, Mark took my hand. I don't want to be your boyfriend anymore, he said. My heart plummeted. I want to be your husband. I want to build a life and a family with you that is nothing like the one you left. A family built on love, not transactions. I said yes, tears of relief and joy streaming down my face. 2 months later, the call I had been dreading and expecting finally came. It was Aunt Carol. My father had passed away. Another massive heart attack. The funeral is on Saturday, she said, her voice devoid of emotion. Your mother wanted me to make it clear that you are not welcome. She said you have your house and that's all you ever wanted. That nearly broke me. The thought of him dying, believing I didn't love him, was a unique and exquisite form of torture. I spent a week and a days unable to function. Mark and a therapist he found for me slowly pieced me back together. They helped me see the truth: my father's death wasn't my fault. It was the result of a lifetime of stress, yes, but also of a family system so toxic it had poisoned itself from the inside out. My refusal to be their victim anymore hadn't caused the disease, it had just changed the timeline. A month after the funeral, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but some morbid curiosity made me press the button. "Stella," she said, her voice syrupy with false grief. "I've been thinking. I'm sorry for how things turned out." I held my breath waiting. "But you have to admit," she continued, the velvet tone slipping to reveal the steel beneath, "if you had just given Kevin the house like we asked, none of this would have happened. Your father would still be alive." And there it was. Not an apology, but a final desperate twist of the knife. It was the last piece of proof I ever needed. "Goodbye, Mom," I said, and for the first time the words didn't hurt. They felt like freedom. I blocked her number. I blocked all of them. My family was gone. But as I stood in the living room of my beautiful home with my fiance's arms around me and the promise of a real family ahead, I knew I hadn't lost a thing. I had saved myself. Story teen. After our young son Leo was diagnosed with diabetes, my marriage to my wife Chloe deteriorated into a loveless co-working arrangement. While I worked 1-2-hour shifts as a nurse and managed the exhausting midnight insulin checks, Chloe found her escape in Fortnite, spending hours laughing into a headset with a deep-voiced duo partner named Vortex. The crushing reality hit when she claimed she was taking a 4-day trip to Pittsburgh to help an old friend open a salon. When she completely ghosted me during the trip, my gut told me to check our shared cloud account's recently deleted folder. Sure enough, I found a cozy, intimate photo of her and Vortex standing together in front of a bridge in Nashville, 10 hours in the opposite direction. The beeping of the glucose monitor became the soundtrack to our marriage. 3 a.m, a shrill alarm from our son Leo's room. I'd roll out of bed, my nurse brain already calculating carbs and insulin units. Across the hall, my wife Chloe would just pull the covers tighter. Before Leo's diagnosis, we were a team. Now, we were just co-workers managing a very fragile, very loved project. I handled the nights. Chloe handled the days. We passed each other in the hallway like ships exchanging data points instead of kisses. His blood sugar was 85 at midnight. Okay, I'll give him juice with breakfast. My 12-hour shifts at the hospital felt like a vacation. At least there, the chaos was organized. At home, it was a quiet, creeping decay. We stopped talking about anything that wasn't Leo or Bill's. The space between us grew until it was a hollow ache in my chest. Chloe found her escape. It started with her phone, then migrated to the big TV in the living room. Fortnite. The cartoonish graphics and cacophony of digital gunfire filled the silence. I no longer knew how to. At first, I was relieved. She was smiling again, laughing into a headset, her hands flying across the controller. It was better than the blank stare she'd had for a year. "Who are you always talking to?" I asked one night, standing in the doorway with 2 glasses of water. She pulled one side of her headset off. "Just my squad. We're in a duos match." Right. I had no idea what that meant. Her focus was already back on the screen. "He's one shot. Push him. Push him now." The man on the other end of the line had a deep, calm voice that I'd started to recognize. He was her duo's partner. I only ever heard his screen name Vortex. She talked to Vortex more than she talked to me. She told him about difficult clients at the salon, about the new coffee shop she wanted to try, about how tired she was. I learned more about my wife's inner life from her half of conversations with a digital ghost than I did from looking her in the eye. It felt pathetic to be jealous of a video game. So I buried it. I told myself it was healthy. She had a hobby. A friend. Then came the weekend trip. She brought it up on a Tuesday while I was cleaning Leo's insulin pump supplies at the kitchen sink. "Hey, so Brenda from cosmetology school is finally opening her own salon," she said, scrolling on her phone at the table. "In Pittsburgh. She's kind of freaking out and wants me to come help her set up for the grand opening." I stopped scrubbing. Pittsburgh. That's like a 10-hour drive. I know. But she's a wreck. She needs my eye for the layout, the product displays. You know how she is. I didn't know how Brenda was. I'd met her once, maybe at our wedding a decade ago. Next weekend. I'd leave Thursday morning, be back Sunday night. 4 days. It would be a huge help to her. She finally looked up from her phone, her eyes wide and hopeful. It was the most animated I'd seen her in months. I thought of 4 days alone with Leo. The constant monitoring the finger pricks the anxiety. But I saw that spark in her eyes and felt a pang of guilt. Maybe this is what she needed. A break. A reminder of the person she was before all this. Okay, I said. Yeah, okay, you should go. The night before she left, she was buzzing. She packed a suitcase full of clothes I hadn't seen her wear in years. Nice jeans, a few slinky tops, a black dress. Brenda said we're going out Saturday night to celebrate, she explained, catching my eye. It's a fancy place. Sounds fun, I said, trying to sound supportive. She left Thursday morning before I was even awake. A quick peck on my cheek was all I got. The house felt huge and silent. The first day was fine. She sent a few texts. Asterisk. Made it. The city is beautiful. Asterisk. Asterisk, Brenda's salon is going to be amazing. So much work to do, asterisk. She sent a picture of a half-assembled styling station, boxes everywhere. It looked legit. Friday was quieter. One text in the morning. Asterisk. Long day ahead. Talk later. Love you, asterisk. By Friday night, I'd heard nothing. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted, no reply. I told myself she was busy. They were working, then they went out, her phone died. There were a million logical reasons. Saturday was a black hole. I called 6 times. Each one was a punch to the gut as it went to the recorded message. I texted a dozen times. Asterisk, hey, just checking in. Is everything okay? Leo's asking for you. Please, just let me know you're safe. Asterisk. The single blue check mark on WhatsApp was my only reply. Delivered. Not read. Panic started to curdle in my stomach. What if she'd been in an accident? What if something happened? I started searching for the salon's name online. Brenda's Salon, Pittsburgh. Nothing. New salon, grand opening, Pittsburgh. Nothing. I searched for Brenda's last name on social media. I found her profile. It was full of pictures of her kids and a trip they'd taken to Disney last week. Her latest post from Friday night was a picture of her and her husband at a local pizza place in Scranton. Not Pittsburgh. My blood went cold. By Sunday morning, I was a ghost. I'd barely slept. Leo knew something was wrong. He was quiet, clinging to my leg as I mechanically made him pancakes. My mind was racing, trying to piece it all together. The lie was so obvious now I felt like an idiot for ever believing it. But why? Where was she? My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Asterisk. So sorry, my phone died and I couldn't find my charger. It was a crazy weekend, so much work. Heading home now. See you tonight. Love you. Asterisk. The casualness of it, the sheer audacity, broke something in me. She got home late, full of fake smiles and stories about paint colors and unruly contractors. I played along. I was a statue, nodding and grunting my insides, screaming. I had no proof. It was my word against hers. A suspicious husband versus a wife who just needed a weekend with a friend. After she fell asleep, exhausted from her trip, I sat on the couch in the dark, my laptop open. My heart hammered against my ribs. I don't know what made me think of it. The shared cloud account. We set it up years ago to automatically back up the photos from our phones. a central place for all our pictures of Leo. I logged in. Her photo library was the first thing that loaded. The most recent pictures were from a week ago, Leo at the park, a selfie of her and the dog. Nothing from the weekend. Of course. She was smart enough to delete them. But she wasn't smart enough to know about the trash folder. My hand was shaking as I navigated the menu. I clicked on Recently Deleted. For a second, there was nothing. Then the thumbnails started to load. One by one, they populated the screen, damning and irrefutable. The first was a selfie of her in a hotel room I didn't recognize. She was smiling wearing that black dress. The second was a picture of 2 cocktails on a dark wood bar. The third made the air leave my lungs. It was her standing next to a man. His arm was wrapped tight around her waist, her head resting on his shoulder. They were both beaming a look of easy intimacy on their faces. Behind them was a riverfront, a bridge lit up against the night sky. I zoomed in on the man's face. He was handsome, maybe a few years younger than us, with a kind smile that made me sick. I didn't know his name, but I knew his voice. It was the calm, deep voice from the headset. It was Vortex. I clicked on the photo's information tab. The geotag was stamped right there. It wasn't Pittsburgh. It was Nashville, Tennessee. 10 hours in the opposite direction. I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch in the dark, the laptop screen burning the image of her and him into my retinas. Nashville, Tennessee. When I heard her stirring upstairs, I closed the laptop, walked into our bedroom, and stood at the foot of the bed. She blinked awake, a soft, groggy smile on her face. "Hey, you're up early." I held up my phone, the screen glowing with the picture. The smile vanished. Her face went slack, the color draining from it. "Who is that, Chloe?" My voice was quiet, deadly calm. She sat up, pulling the sheet to her chin. "Ollie, It's not what it looks like. It looks like you in Nashville with the guy you play video games with. It looks like you lied about helping Brenda in Pittsburgh. We're just friends. He was going through a hard time and I went to support him. Nothing happened." The words were so practiced, so hollow. "Nothing happened. You shut your phone off for 2 days. You lied to my face for weeks. You packed a black dress to go set up a salon." Every word was a stone I was pulling from my own gut. Tears started welling in her eyes, the waterworks. Right on cue. "I know I should have told you. I was scared. You've been so distant, and he listens to me. It was just a mistake. A stupid mistake. Please, Ollie. I'll stop. I'll never talk to him again. I'll delete him. I'll delete the game. I want you. I want our family." She was crying fully now, her shoulders shaking. Part of me, a stupid, broken part, wanted to believe her. It would be so much easier. But I just looked at her face and saw a stranger. "Okay," I said the word feeling like ash in my mouth. "Show me." Her head snapped up. "What?" "Show me. Block his number. Delete him from the game. Right now." She scrambled for her phone, her fingers fumbling as she pulled up his contact. She blocked the number. She opened the Fortnite app and after a moment's hesitation removed Vortex from her friends list. She held the phone out to me, her hand trembling. "See, it's done. I promise. It's over." For a week, the house was a mausoleum of forced politeness. We made small talk. We ate dinner together. It felt like we were acting in a play about a happy marriage. I was watching her every move. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. I felt like a detective in my own home. One evening, we were on the couch watching TV. Her phone face down on the cushion between us lit up. A Snapchat notification. The username was just a jumble of letters and numbers, but the Bitmoji that popped up was a cartoon man with the same brown hair and kind eyes as the man in the photo. My stomach twisted. "Who's Kingslayer89?" I asked, my voice flat. She glanced at the screen and quickly flipped the phone over. "Oh, just someone from work. We have a group chat." That night I waited until I heard the soft rhythm of her breathing from her side of the bed. I picked up her phone. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type in the passcode she didn't know I knew. I opened Snapchat. There he was. Kingslayer89. Vortex. Their chat history was short, just a few messages. Him times hey. You okay, asterisk? Her times. It's hard. He knows. Asterisk. Him times I'm here if you need me. Asterisk. I felt the rage, hot and clean, burn through me. I woke her up. You're still talking to him? It wasn't a question. She sat bolt upright, saw her phone in my hand and her face crumpled. It was just to say goodbye. I swear I was telling him I couldn't talk anymore. That's all. You lied. Again. I'm sorry, I'll delete it. I'll delete the whole app. Look. She snatched the phone, her tears dripping onto the screen as she deleted Snapchat. It's gone now. For real this time. Please don't do this. You're just so angry all the time. She tried to pin it on me. My anger. My suspicion. As if I were the one creating the problem. As if my reaction to her lies was worse than the lies themselves. The next lie came a week later. I was scrolling through TikTok trying to numb my brain when the app suggested an account for me to follow. The profile picture was a selfie of him, Vortex, standing in front of that same Nashville bridge. My thumb hovered over the screen, and I clicked on his followers. I scrolled for a few seconds before I found it. A new account. No posts, no profile picture. The username was ChloeStylist22. Her middle name and the year she opened her first salon. A ghost account made for the sole purpose of watching him. I didn't even raise my voice this time. I walked into the living room where she was folding laundry and just showed her my phone. She threw the t-shirt she was holding onto the couch. Oh my God, Oliver, it's not a big deal. I wasn't talking to him. I was just curious. You're suffocating me. I can't do anything without you looking over my shoulder. It's like living in a prison. The door's unlocked, Chloe, I said quietly. You built the prison. She stormed off, and we didn't speak for 2 days. The final inevitable promise came after that. More tears, more apologies. A long, desperate speech about how she knew she'd broken everything, but that Fortnite was the root of it all. It was her escape, her addiction. She swore she was done. She promised with her hand on a photo of our son that she would never play that game again. I'm deleting it off the console, she said, her voice thick with manufactured sincerity. You can watch me. And I did. I watched her delete the icon from the menu. 2 days later, I got mandated for an extra 4 hours at the hospital. A nasty car pileup. I called to let her know I'd be home late. I was exhausted when I finally pulled into the driveway after midnight, my body aching. As I walked to the front door, I heard it. Faintly through the living room window, her laugh. It was a sound I hadn't heard in months. Not a real one, anyway. It was light and genuine, full of a joy she never had with me anymore. And mixed with it the tinny, familiar sound of digital gunfire. I opened the front door. There she was, curled up on the couch headset, on the TV screen, flashing with the vibrant colors of a Fortnite match. She hadn't even bothered to reinstall it on the main console. She was playing on Leo's smaller Switch, thinking I'd never see it. "Yeah, he's in that bush," she said, into the mic, giggling. "Push him with me." I stood in a doorway and watched her. She hadn't noticed me. She was in her other world. Her real world. With him. And just like that, the fight was gone. The anger, the suspicion, the frantic need to catch her to fix this, it all just evaporated. It left behind a complete and utter emptiness. I wasn't watching my wife betray me. I was watching a stranger play a video game. I couldn't fight for something that wasn't there anymore. You can't save a marriage by yourself. She must have sensed me. She turned her eyes, widening in panic as she saw me standing there in my scrubs. She ripped the headset off. "Ollie, it's not. I was stressed." I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. At the controller, in her hands, at the lie playing out on the screen. I saw it all for what it was. Unsalvageable. I turned around and walked up the stairs. "Oliver, wait, let's talk about this," she called after me, her voice laced with a panicky edge. I closed our bedroom door behind me, the click of the latch echoing in the silent room. I sat on the edge of the bed, my work bag sliding to the floor. I pulled out my laptop, the faint glow illuminating my face in the darkness. My fingers moved over the keyboard, but I wasn't searching for her online history. I wasn't looking for more proof. I had all the proof I needed. I typed "divorce lawyer" into the Google search bar. I clicked on the first link. There was a button that read, "Schedule a consultation." I clicked it.
A 29 male proposed to my fiancée 8 months ago. We'd been together for 3 years before that. I thought we were solid. I thought wrong. 3 days before Valentine's Day, she sat me down in our living room with that serious expression that tells you bad news is incoming. I've been thinking, she started, about us. About whether we're really right for each other. My stomach dropped. Where is this coming from? I just need to know if what I feel for you is real love or just comfort, familiarity. You know, we're engaged. You said yes 8 months ago. I know. And I meant it. But lately I've been wondering if I said yes because I genuinely want to spend my life with you, or because it was expected. Because you're safe. Safe. She called me safe. Like that's a bad thing. So what are you saying? I want a break. Just for a little while. To see if I miss you. To see if being apart makes me realize how much I need you. The timing wasn't lost on me. Valentine's Day was in 3 days. The reservation I made 2 months ago at the fancy Italian place she loved. The weekend trip I'd planned. The earrings I'd already bought. 3 days before Valentine's, I said flatly, I know the timing isn't great. The timing is perfect, actually, for you. What does that mean? It means you get to be single on Valentine's Day. Free to do whatever or whoever without technically cheating. And if it doesn't work out, you come back to safe old me. Her face hardened. That's not fair. I'm trying to be honest with you. Honest would have been talking about this before we got engaged. Or before you accepted the ring. Or before I put down a deposit on a wedding venue. I didn't know how I felt then. And now you suddenly do? 3 days before Valentine's. She crossed her arms. I need space to figure things out. That's not unreasonable. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman I'd planned to marry. The woman I'd build a life with. The woman who was now asking for permission to test the waters while keeping me as a backup plan. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay. Take all the time you need. Really? You're okay with this? I'm saying take your break. Figure out what you want. I won't stop you. She looked almost disappointed. Like she'd expected more of a fight. More begging. More proof of how much I needed her. I'm going to stay with my sister for a few days, she said. Just to clear my head. Sure. You're being weirdly calm about this. What would you prefer? Should I cry? Beg? Would that prove my love better than 3 years of actually being there? She didn't answer. Just packed a bag and left. The moment the door closed, I did something I've been putting off for weeks. I called and canceled the Valentine's reservation. The $200 deposit was non-refundable. But honestly, that was cheaper than the emotional cost of sitting at that table alone. Then I returned the earrings. Got store credit. Used it to buy myself a new watch I'd been eyeing for months. Something just for me. Felt strange. Felt right. Then I sat down and really thought about the last few months. The late nights she'd been working. The new interest in self-improvement. The distance that had been growing between us that I'd chalked up to wedding stress. I pulled up her location, sharing on my phone. She'd never turned it off. She wasn't at her sister's house. She was across town, at an apartment complex I didn't recognize. Interesting. I screenshot it, saved it, then turned off my own location sharing, so she couldn't track me. The next morning, I woke up to a text from her. Missing you already. Hope you're doing okay. I left it on read. If she missed me so much, she could have stayed. But she didn't. She chose to leave. She chose to lie about where she was going. That text was just maintenance, keeping me warm on the back burner while she explored her options. 2 days before Valentine's, I got a text from her cousin. We'd always gotten along well. She was the cool one in the family. The one who called out BS when she saw it. The one who'd privately told me once that I was too good for her cousin. Cousin, hey. Heard what happened. You okay? Me been better. How'd you find out? Cousin. She posted on Instagram about taking time for myself with a spa selfie. Asked my aunt. Got the full story. Me, what did she tell you? Cousin. That you're being unsupportive of her emotional journey. Her words. Me, wow. Cousin, yeah. For what it's worth, I think she's being ridiculous. You deserve better. Me, thanks. Means a lot. Cousin. If you need someone to talk to, I'm around. Serious offer. I thought about it for maybe 30 seconds. Me? Actually, yeah. Want to grab coffee tomorrow? Cousin, sure. I'll text you the place. The next day, February 13th, I met her cousin at a coffee shop. We talked for 3 hours. About the situation, about her family. About how her cousin had always been the golden child who got away with everything. She's not at her sister's. I told her. What do you mean? Location sharing. She's at some apartment across town. Has been since she left. Never once went to her sister's place. Her cousin's expression shifted. Understanding, then disgust. She's with someone. That's my guess. She wanted a break conveniently right before Valentine's Day. Lied about where she was staying and has been at the same address for 3 days. Doesn't take a detective. That's not a break to find herself. That's a trial run with another guy. Yeah, I figured. And she expected you to just wait? Well, she did this. That's exactly what she expected. The break was supposed to give her freedom while keeping me on ice. What are you going to do? Nothing. She wanted a break. She's getting one. I'm just not going to be waiting when she decides she's done experimenting. Her cousin looked at me with something like respect. Most guys will be losing it right now. What's the point? She made her choice. I'm just accepting it faster than she expected. You know, she hesitated. This is probably inappropriate. But do you have plans tomorrow? For Valentine's? I did. Canceled them. I don't either. My ex and I split 3 months ago. First Valentine's single in 4 years. That sucks. It does. Want me single together? Strictly as friends. Anti-Valentine's solidarity. I laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in days. Sure. Why not? There's this new tapas place I've been wanting to try. Nothing fancy. Just good food and maybe too much wine. Sounds perfect. So that's how I ended up having Valentine's Day dinner with my fiance's cousin. And that's what my fiance called. Update 1. Valentine's Day evening. We were halfway through our second bottle of wine when my phone rang. Her name on the screen. Her cousin saw it. Raised an eyebrow. You gonna answer? Might as well. I picked up. Hello. Hey. Happy Valentine's Day. Her voice was bright, almost manic. I've been thinking about you all day. Have you? Yes. And I realized I was so stupid. I don't need a break. I know what I want. I want you. I want US. Background noise on her end. Restaurant sounds. Glasses clinking. Where are you? I asked. Just out. With some friends. Nothing crazy. But I want to come home. Tonight. Can we talk? Sure. We can talk. Great. I'll be there in like an hour. We can order in, watch a movie, make up for lost time. Her voice dropped suggestively. I really missed you. Did you? Of course. This break made me realize how much you mean to me. You're my person. Interesting. Because according to your location sharing, you've been at the same apartment across town for the last 3 days. Not at your sister's like you said. Dead silence on the line. What? The apartment complex. The one you've been staying at since you needed space. Whose place is that? That's... You were tracking me? You never turned off location sharing. I just looked. That's a complete violation of my privacy. And lying about where you were staying is what? Exactly. Her cousin was watching me. Wine glass paused halfway to her lips. She could hear enough to piece it together. It's not what you think. My fiancé said quickly. It's just a friend's place. A friend. You've been staying with a friend for 3 days. On a break from our relationship. 3 days before Valentine's Day. You're twisting this. Then explain it. I don't have to explain anything to you. You're being controlling and paranoid. I actually laughed. I'm controlling? You asked for a break so you could stay with some other guy without it being cheating. And I'm the problem. I didn't. It wasn't. She was sputtering now. Where are you right now? I can hear noise. Are you at a restaurant? I am, actually. On Valentine's Day? With who? I looked across the table at her cousin, who was now openly grinning. Your cousin, actually. The silence that followed was almost worth the entire disaster. My cousin? You're on a date with my cousin. It's not a date. It's two single people having dinner on Valentine's Day. Since we're on a break and all, we're not on a break anymore. I just said, you said you wanted a break. I gave you one. Now you're upset that I'm not sitting at home crying while you test drive your other option. That's not how this works. You cannot date my cousin. According to you, I can do whatever I want. We're on a break. That's the whole point. Her cousin grabbed the phone from my hand. Hey, it's me. Quick question. Does your mystery friend know you're engaged? Or did you conveniently forget to mention that while you were finding yourself? I heard screeching from the phone. Her cousin just laughed. Thought so. Enjoy your night. She hung up and handed the phone back to me. That felt good, she admitted. She's going to lose her mind. She's already lost it. She just didn't realize you weren't going to be a pushover about it. My phone immediately started buzzing. Text after text. You're going to regret this. I can't believe you would do this to me. My own cousin? Really? You're sick. We're done. The engagement is off. I showed her cousin. She shrugged. Wasn't the engagement already off when she asked for a break to stay with another guy? Technically, yes. Then she's just catching up to reality. My phone rang again. Her mother this time. I sent it to voicemail. Then her sister called. Voicemail. Then her father. Same. Within an hour, I had 16 missed calls and probably 50 texts. I turned my phone off. Her cousin was watching the notifications pile up before I silenced the phone. She looked almost impressed. That's a lot of reaction for someone who wanted to take a break. She's not mad that the relationship is over. She's mad that she lost control of the narrative. How do you mean? She expected me to be devastated, crying, begging for her back. Instead, I'm at dinner with her cousin, clearly fine. That's not how she planned this. In her version, she was supposed to come back whenever she wanted, and I was supposed to be grateful. And instead, she found out I'm not a backup plan. I'm a person with options. That's what she can't handle. Want to get dessert? Her cousin asked. Absolutely. We didn't get home until midnight. By then, my fiancé had apparently driven to our apartment. Her car was in the lot. The lights were on inside. She's here, I said. Wanted to come up? Moral support. Probably not a good idea. She'll use it against both of us. Fair point. Text me later. Let me know you're okay. I will. I went upstairs. Unlocked the door. She was sitting on the couch, mascara streaked, still in whatever she'd been wearing at the restaurant. We need to talk, she said. About what? The break you requested? Or the guy you've been staying with? Or the fact that you're upset I wasn't waiting faithfully while you cheated? I didn't cheat. We're on a break. A break you asked for specifically so you could be with him without it being cheating. That's just cheating with extra steps. You're unbelievable. I try to be honest with you. Honest? You told me you were staying at your sister's. You were at some random apartment. You planned this whole thing to give yourself a guilt-free pass. That's not honesty. That's strategy. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. You knew exactly how to tell me. I want a break. To see if I miss you. That was your speech. Practice, probably. You just didn't mention the part where you already had someone lined up. You're twisting everything. I'm stating facts. You wanted a break. You got one. Now you're mad that the break applies to both of us. I went behind my back with my own cousin. I didn't go behind anything. I had dinner with someone. You literally gave me permission to do whatever I wanted when you asked for a break. I didn't think you'd actually do anything. You're supposed to miss me. You're supposed to wait. There it was. The truth. So the break was a test. You wanted to see if I'd be miserable without you while you had fun with your backup plan. That's not. And when I didn't react the way you expected, when I didn't beg and cry and prove how lost I am without you, you decided to come back early. Before I could realize I don't actually need you. Her face crumpled. That's so cruel. No. What's cruel is asking your fiance for a break 3 days before Valentine's Day so you can sleep with another guy. What's cruel is lying about where you were staying. What's cruel is expecting me to be grateful when you decided to come back. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This was a calculated plan to have your cake. And eat it too. And now you're mad that I won't play along. She stood up. I want to ring back. Fine. I went to the bedroom. Got the ring box from where she'd left it on the dresser. And handed it to her. That's IT? You're not even going to fight for us. No. After 3 years, you asked for a break to be with someone else. What exactly am I supposed to fight for? She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Then she grabbed her bag, the ring box, and stormed out. I slept better that night than I had in months. Update 2, 1 week later. The week after Valentine's Day was interesting. That's putting it mildly. First, the family campaign started. Her mother called me 7 times in 2 days. I answered once. You need to apologize to my daughter. She started without preamble. For what? For humiliating her. For going on a date with her own cousin. For being cruel and vindictive. Did she tell you that she spent her break at another man's apartment? But she lied about where she was staying. Pause. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. She wanted freedom to explore other options. I gave it to her. She didn't like that I used the same freedom. You were engaged. You have responsibilities. So did she. She chose to ignore them. She hung up on me. Her sister texted me a novel about how I was emotionally abusive for tracking her location. I replied with one line. She never turned off location sharing. I just looked. No response to that. Her father, surprisingly, was more measured. He called once, asked what happened from my perspective, actually listened, and then said, "I'm not going to defend what she did. But I hope you understand this puts the family in a difficult position." Understand. I also didn't create the situation. No. You didn't. He sounded tired. Take care of yourself. That was it. Probably the only reasonable person in her entire family. Meanwhile, her cousin and I kept talking. Not romantically. Not yet. Just talking. She was the only person who saw the situation clearly without family bias. They're rallying around her. She told me over coffee a few days later. Full victim mode. She's telling everyone you were cold, distant, that you drove her away. And then when she tried to come back, you'd already replaced her with. Replaced her? We had dinner once. I know. But that's not the story she's telling. What's your family saying to you? She shrugged. My mom called me a traitor. Maya won't speak to me. My sister said I should be ashamed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause problems for you. You didn't cause anything. She did. And honestly, the fact that they're blaming me instead of holding her accountable says everything about why she turned out the way she did. Still, it's your family. Some family is worth keeping. Some isn't. I'm old enough to know the difference. Here's where things got interesting. Remember how I mentioned she was at some guy's apartment? I did some digging. Not stalking, just following breadcrumbs. Social media is a gold mine if you know where to look. The apartment complex she was staying at, it's where her co-worker lives. The one she always said was just a work friend. The one she grabbed lunch with because their schedules aligned. The one whose name came up a little too often in casual conversation. Her cousin helped me piece it together. Apparently, this coworker had been liking all of her Instagram posts for months. Comments that were just a little too familiar. Inside jokes that excluded everyone else. The kind of engagement that makes you wonder how often they're actually talking. When I pointed this out to her cousin, she pulled up her own Instagram and started scrolling through my ex's posts. Look at this. Every single selfie. He's one of the first to comment. Beautiful as always. Lucky to know you. This has been going on since at least October. For months before she asked for a break. At minimum. This wasn't a sudden confusion about your relationship. This was a slow burn exit strategy. I sent him a message. Nothing aggressive. Just, hey, I'm the fiancé. Or was? Just want to let you know she has a pattern of doing this. Might want to consider that before getting serious. He blocked me within an hour. But I noticed something interesting. His Instagram went private. And her posts about finding herself and self-love journey suddenly stopped. Trouble in paradise already. My ex tried to contact me directly a few times. First, anger. You messaged him? Who do you think you are? Then guilt. I can't believe you would try to sabotage my life like this. I thought you were better than that. Then manipulation. I realize now that you're hurting. I hurt you. I'm sorry. Can we please just talk? I still love you. I made a terrible mistake. I didn't respond to any of them. Here's the thing about people like her. They don't understand when their manipulation stops working. Every time I didn't respond, she'd escalate. New approaches, new tactics, new stories. Each one designed to provoke a reaction. First came anger. How dare I message her coworker? Who did I think I was? I was obsessed and couldn't let go. Then came guilt. I was trying to sabotage her happiness. I wanted her to be miserable. I couldn't stand to see her move on. Then came manipulation. She realized now that she'd made a mistake. She still loved me. The break was a terrible idea. Could we please just talk like adults? Then came threats. If I didn't stop harassing her by not responding to her messages apparently, she'd make sure everyone knew what kind of person I really was. I didn't respond to any of them. Each message got screenshot, dated, and saved. Just in case. She started telling mutual friends that I was obsessed with her and couldn't let go. Meanwhile, SHE was the one sending me messages. The cognitive dissonance was almost impressive. About 5 days after Valentine's Day, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. I didn't let her in. Please. 5 minutes. I just want to talk. About what? Us. Our future. I made a mistake. I know that now. What changed? She hesitated. Things didn't work out the way I expected. With your coworker? Her face went red. How did you? Lucky guess. So he dumped you. And now you want to come back to safe old me. Am I getting that right? It wasn't like that. I realized I was confused. I thought I wanted something else, but what I really want is you. No. What you want is a backup plan. Someone to catch you when your first choice doesn't work out. I'm not interested in that role. You're being so cruel. I'm being honest. Something you should have tried 3 weeks ago. She left crying. Somehow I was still the bad guy in her mind. The lease situation was complicated. We were both on it. Her name, my name, shared responsibility. The apartment manager said we need to figure it out among ourselves or wait until the lease was up in 4 months. I offered her a deal. I'd take over the full lease, she'd get her deposit back. about $1,400, and we'd call even. She refused. Demanded I pay her half the furniture value plus emotional damages. The furniture argument was ridiculous because I'd bought most of it before we even moved in together, and emotional damages isn't a thing in lease disputes. I told her to take it up with a lawyer. She didn't have one. Couldn't afford one. Her co-worker apparently wasn't the financial rescue she'd been hoping for. Turns out the guy made about the same as she did, which is to say, not enough to fund the lifestyle she'd been enjoying on our combined income. Her cousin, meanwhile, became a genuine friend. We texted daily, met for coffee a few times. Nothing romantic on the surface, but something was building. We both felt it. Is this weird? I asked her one evening at dinner. What? This? Us. You're a cousin. There are rules about this sort of thing. Rules made by people who've never been in the situation. She destroyed your relationship. I was here. We connected. That's not weird. That's just life. Your family will never accept it. Probably not. Does that bother you? I thought about it. Less than I thought it would. She smiled. Same. Final update. 3 weeks later. The resolution came faster than I expected. And Messier. My ex's desperation hit a peak about 2 weeks after Valentine's Day. The co-worker situation had apparently imploded spectacular. Through the grapevine, her cousin, who still had 1 or 2 family members willing to share gossip, I learned that he'd broken things off because, wait for it, he found out she'd been engaged when they started talking. The irony was almost too perfect. She'd lied to him about me, just like she'd lied to me about him. And when the truth came out, he wanted nothing to do with her. From what her cousin gathered, the co-worker had asked her directly, "Were you really engaged when we started talking?" And she'd apparently tried to spin it as technically, but basically over. He didn't buy it. Probably realized that if she'd lie about something that big, she'd lie about anything. So now she was single, humiliated, and living back with her parents. No fiancé. No boyfriend. No apartment. The life she'd been so eager to explore had collapsed in 3 weeks. Did I feel bad? A little. 3 years together doesn't just disappear. But mostly I felt relief. Relief that I'd seen who she really was before we'd gotten married. Before we'd had kids. Before she could do this to me when there was actually something at stake. The lease situation resolved itself when she realized she couldn't afford a lawyer, and I wasn't going to cave to her demands. She signed off on transferring the lease to me in exchange for her deposit back. I took the deal. $1,400 was a small price to pay for a clean break. Her stuff was packed by her sister on a Wednesday afternoon. I wasn't there. Didn't need to be. Her cousin offered to be present to make sure nothing got damaged or accidentally taken, but I declined. I just wanted it done. Everything she owned fit in about 12 boxes. Looking at the empty spaces in the apartment afterward, I realized how little of us there really was. Most of the furniture was mine. Most of the decor was mine. The kitchen stuff, the bedroom set, the TV, all mine, purchased before we moved in together or during the relationship with my money. She just occupied space. 3 years together, and she left barely a physical trace. Maybe that should have told me something earlier. The final communication came via email, probably typed by her mother, knowing her writing style. It was 3 pages of emotional manipulation disguised as closure. She was hurt beyond words by my betrayal. She never meant for things to go this far. She still loved me despite my cruelty. She hoped I would someday realize what I'd lost. She wished me nothing but misery with her cousin. The last line was particularly charming. "You two deserve each other." I didn't respond. Just archived it in case I ever needed documentation. Her cousin read it, laughed, and said, "She's right about one thing. We probably do deserve each other. Just not in the way she means." About that, her cousin and I didn't officially start dating until almost a month after Valentine's Day. We both wanted to make sure it was real, not just revenge or rebound. We took it slow. Dinner, movies, long conversations about what we both wanted. It was real, different from anything I'd had before. She was honest in a way my ex never was. Direct. No games, no tests, no manipulation. When she felt something, she said it. When she wanted something, she asked for it. "I know this is complicated," she told me one night. "My family thinks I'm a traitor. Her family will never accept us. Every holiday is going to be awkward for the rest of our lives. Is that a deal breaker for you?" "No. Just a reality check. I want to make sure you know what you're signing up for." "I know. And I'm in." She smiled. "Me too." Her cousin, my girlfriend now, I guess, lost some family relationships over this. Her mom barely speaks to her. Her aunt, my ex's mother, sends passive-aggressive cards on holidays. Some cousins unfollowed her on social media. At one family dinner she wasn't invited to, apparently her name came up, and someone called her the betrayer, which is both dramatic and kind of hilarious. But her dad still talks to her. Her brother thinks the whole situation is hilarious and keeps asking for updates. And she has friends who understand. Family isn't just blood, she told me. Family is the people who show up for you, who tell you the truth even when it's hard, who don't enable your worst impulses. My ex never had that. She had enablers. People who made excuses for her, blamed everyone else, convinced her she was always the victim. And when that stopped working on me, she lost her mind. I ran into her once, about 3 weeks after everything settled. Grocery store because of course. She saw me, froze, then walked the other direction. Didn't say a word. Neither did I. That's probably the best closure either of us is going to get. So where does this leave me? The apartment is quiet now. Different. I rearranged the furniture, painted one wall, bought some plants. It feels like mine for the first time in years. Her cousin comes over a few times a week. We cook dinner, watch bad reality TV, talk about our days. Normal stuff. Domestic stuff. It's nice. Simple in a way my previous relationship never was. Is it perfect? No. Her family still hates me. My ex is apparently telling anyone who will listen that I was abusive and she escaped a toxic relationship. Some people believe her. Most don't. But here's what I learned. You can't control what other people think of you. You can only control how you respond to situations. My ex wanted a break, so she could cheat without consequences. I gave her exactly what she asked for. And when the consequences came anyway, she blamed everyone but herself. That's her pattern. That'll always be her pattern. And I'm grateful I'm no longer part of it. To anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, trust your gut. When someone asks for a break right before a romantic holiday, they're not trying to find themselves. They're trying to find someone else while keeping you as a backup. You don't have to be the backup. You could just walk away. Let them discover exactly how much they need you. And when they come running back, you can be somewhere else entirely. Maybe even at a tapas restaurant with their cousin. Thanks for reading. Time to close this chapter.